unmute, and we should now, once they catch up to the delay, we will be heard at this point. Listening? Okay, cool. Yeah, so here we are. We're technically in an off week. I had to obviously bump the episode since I didn't have a voice last. That's
Ted got poisoned.
That's no, and dude, there's like one person at work that like she's almost had the effects of it for like a month now, and like her voice is mostly back, but it still has like that strainness to it that like you could tell she's coming off. I'm like, how's everyone else like got around it like in like a week ish, and everyone got their voice back, but her like she had lost her voice is totally gone for like 2.5 weeks, and then now like almost a month later she's still like
suffering from it.
I'm like, dude, what
just different people react differently.
How did you draw the short straw? Like, I'm glad that wasn't me. A windbag such as myself cannot be silenced for that long. I'd go crazy.
Windbag, that's a good callback.
I'd have to get one of the Stephen Hawking machines. Do my talking
name
for
is
me.
Tad.
Jack's in the chat. Hello, Jack. Yeah, so we are here, and I guess we can just hit the intro and get started on it before we get too much of the intro and everything. But yeah, we're on an off week here, and we'll be back next week for another episode as well, and we'll be back on track. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Like over since the last one, I mean, we've had movies come out. Yesterday, of course, I think we're both mourning the loss of Peter Mayhew.
Oh.
Yeah, I almost tweeted something, but there was so much going on Twitter, like even just telling people about the episode today and stuff. I was just like, I don't want to like clog it with everything else I've got going, but like certainly one that we're feeling. Everyone that listens knows that we're Star Wars fans, and I don't know if everyone knows that Chewbacca is your favorite character. So, yeah.
And Peter Mayhew was just everything I ever saw with him. Just is such a great guy.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Like all the stories I've ever heard of him, I've seen his interactions on he was a Redditor. Like He was a huge contributor. Like he would show up in random posts on like the Star Wars subreddit.
Yeah.
And just be like, no, I don't think Chewie would do that. And it's just like, holy fuck, like Chewbacca just responded to me. And then like someone posted last night and it really hit me hard. It's like, here's his last post. And it was something like, hey, I hope you have a great day or something like that,
Yeah.
And then it was signed Peter Mayhew to someone. And I was just like,
Yeah. And I had some interactions with him at 2015 celebration outside the event too. I ran into him. And then 2015 that was, and then 2017 I actually got his autograph for you.
Me, yeah. Which is now like seriously one of my most prized possessions. I'm so glad that I have that like safely put away until I can find a place to put it up.
Yeah.
Get it framed and everything. But I was just like, I like held it last night and tugged it. I was like.
So a shout out to him before we get started into the episode here. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started, and we will catch everyone up and then get rolling on this very, very packed episode. I will warn everyone that it is got a lot going.
That's what I've heard.
I know we were talking about like an email episode or whatever, but we'll get to it. So.
We got stuff going on.
So let's go ahead and mute ourselves and listen to the intro.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are quartet, one from many. The palaver begins.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's Magnum Opus, the Dark Tower series, and my name is Tad.
I'm Peter.
And we're here for roundtable number 71.
71.
And just for everyone that's keeping track at home, we were talking about a book club this episode, but there's been a lot going on. We're actually off a week if you're listening live. We're recording on an off week. I lost my voice, and as I said in the pre-show, a windbag such as myself losing his voice is very crippling, and obviously a podcast is not it would have been pretty much been you alone and me just sitting here like.
And no one wants to listen to me talk for 2 hours straight. It's just not. It's not.
Yeah,
and
like,
especially Ted doesn't want me to get sick because my line of work is talking on the phone. So that would have been very bad.
I didn't want to get you sick. So so we pushed off to this week, but then like in general, even if it was last week, I wanted to do a roundtable this time and then move the book club to next time. So this time we're doing roundtable 71, and then next week we'll do a book club, and we'll be kind of back on schedule. So roundtable. I guess I can change the slide as well. Number 71. And we are also recording on a different day than usual. Usually we're on Saturday, but today we're Friday because again different weeks. So
schedules and
scheduling is kind of interesting. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First of all, I want to warn you guys about spoilers. If you guys have not read the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series, you may want to cry off this podcast because we tend to, I don't know, even just in random ways we're not planning it, we tend to get to like certain conclusions and endings and stuff of characters or the story itself, and we just don't want to be ones to spoil it for you guys. So if you haven't finished the 7 primary books, you may want to cry off. Listen to our book club episodes. With those, we stay where we're at, no further. So those are always safe unless we are obviously past you. Then you may want to keep in line with where we're at. Like if you're in the middle of book like 1, then don't listen to all of our book clubs, but listen up to where you're at and then hold off from there. But if you're like in book 5, you can listen to every book club and be in good shape. But if you go any further, it's on you if anything gets spoiled. Next up, if you want to find our podcast, if you're listening to us on iTunes or if you found us on iHeartRadio or wherever else, you can find us a number of ways. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, like any podcast service, really. There's a ton of them out there. You can find us on any of those. You can be so kind as to subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those services, specifically iTunes. If you use that platform, it is one of the more influential. We would definitely appreciate that. It helps the show be found by more fans, which we always like because growing our content is always a fun thing. We have our show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. Right now we're in the middle of something that we'll talk about on the other side of the announcements that's going on the website right now that's a little bit different, but the show notes are generally a thing that we have like what I'm showing Peter. If you're watching YouTube, you'll see what's on the screen. You'll be able to see what Peter's seeing in the studio here. But if you're just listening to it in a podcast fashion, you could always just pull up on your phone, darktowerpalaver.com, look at the show notes. You'll be able to see the pictures that Peter's seeing. You'll be able to read the articles. Sometimes I just take small aspects of an article. Yeah. If you want to go read the rest of the article or whatever, see the context of everything, you can do that, finding all the things at darktowerpalaver.com. So check us out there. And then Peter is sabotaging the notes. And of course, I'm not going to say any such thing as he typed in there that flag sucks, but of course that would be a lie. Of course, I would never say such things. And if you guys, like I mentioned, we are an extended quartet, and you are part of that. If you're new to that, welcome. And Peter is going to tell you, I guess, your avenues to being actively engaged in this quartet.
Yeah, the best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We also have the social medias. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And the Twitter, it's at darktowerpod. That's at darktowerpod. And then, like Tad said, we have our show streaming live on YouTube. You can also go back and watch this roundtable later to see all the visuals like Tad was referencing. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. And Tad was telling me early on in the pre-show that we got a very visual heavy episode.
A lot of visuals in this episode. So if there is one that you wanted to test out the old YouTube, this would probably be a good one because there's a lot of cool stuff to see. So yeah, we're going to dive right into it. There's a lot to talk about. We mentioned why we're doing a roundtable, and now you guys will kind of see. One of the big reasons is the first thing we're going to talk about is our most hated roundup. We basically have had 2 rounds now that have ended since we talked about it last. So if nothing else, I mean, there's a lot of news on top of that, but if nothing else, there's part of it. It's like I told Peter, if we did a book club now, we're basically going to be recording next as a roundtable would be basically the week that we're going into the finals, and we will not have talked about 3 rounds. I'm like, so I don't know. The news is obviously the big thing, but this is obviously something we wanted to talk about. So everyone that's new, we basically have a tournament to crown our most hated character in the Dark Tower series from our podcast, in our podcast audience.
Yeah, this doesn't necessarily mean that this person is an evil person or a bad person. It's just hated is the key word there that like Tad said.
Yeah,
it seriously is basically the ones that I always think about it the way I was describing it to my wife when I was telling her what we were doing. was these are the ones that just drive you nuts.
Yeah, like ones that you may even like slow down in reading because you know they're upcoming. Like now, I think people have been interpreting this differently. I think a little bit and how they vote, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
just so long as it's like hated, like like whether that means you hate them as a character because of their actions, or whether it is something like the kind of person they are in terms of like the things they do, or like just I don't know. It could even be
How they treat another character. Or something like
it
that.
could be any number of things. So we had everybody nominated, and now we're up into we just actually started the final four. As we record here. I think it was yesterday I got it posted. So let's talk about round two. Round two is where we entered into some of the more deplorable characters. Basically, the ones that had a lot of nominations were given buys, and this is where they come in and are now able to compete against some of the winners from the first round that we talked about on the last round table. First of all, Mayor Thorin beat Stephen King 64-35. That one, I don't know that I would say it surprised me. I guess Thorin is not one I never ever necessarily thought, like, he's deplorable for sure, but like I was shocked with like how many people said Stephen King when he was nominated. So I actually honestly expected him to win this round, just because like I don't share it. I actually liked Stephen King. I like him in the novels. Like I think it's kind of a cool concept of him being brought into it all.
Yeah.
But like but there's a lot of people that don't like the fact that he put himself in the book. There's a lot of people that don't like maybe some of his attitude towards Dark Tower, the way it's written into the book. Like there's a lot of things that people don't like, and I was really shocked to see him nominated as much. So I kind of expected him to win, especially against maybe quote unquote a lighter weight scumbag like Mayor Thorin. Yeah. But no, Thorin beat him and handily.
I never really thought of Thorin as like a bad guy. He's more of like an incompetent goof.
Well, I mean, the stuff with Susan is pretty
like, yeah, I mean, like
that's probably I think that's like, because like he's basically abdicated most of his responsibilities away. He's letting other people basically run things. But so basically it comes down to he's basically someone that's sexually assaulting a girl.
And that's the thing is like, like I definitely understand where we're coming from with like our society and stuff like that, but like in their society and everything like that, it's perfectly normal. I mean, like that's the thing that they got me was like so many people were treating her like how Roland reacted. Kind of was, like we understood it was justified for us and everything because that's where we come from. But like, I mean, like Cordelia says it, like it's perfectly normal. Like it's absolutely acceptable. It's been bought and paid for. Papers have been signed. Yeah, money, gold's exchanged hand and everything like that. Like it's a thing. Like he agreed to it. Like she's got to follow through. That's her word and everything. The way he does it and the stuff that he does in the meantime, while the wait period, yeah, absolutely. He's a piece of crap. Yeah, but compared to like some other people on this list, like no, like I'm sorry, but no, like especially in the context of the story, like no.
Yeah, but
like,
there's some pretty
the Stephen King one really caught me by surprise because I never really had a problem with him because it's like, yeah, it's always hard for someone who has the weight of the world on their shoulders to be,
yeah,
not everyone has that moral fiber to be that strong, and I like the fact that King wrote himself as flawed, not this like godlike figure like. Of.
Yeah.
I always liked that. So that was just me. It was just kind of shocked me that both of those actually even made it like onto the list. But then when we started like discussing it and going into it, it really kind of opened my eyes to be like, damn, yeah, like Mayor Thorin, yeah, like if like people ask me like, hey, top 10 people who are pieces of crap in Wizard and Glass, Mayor Thorin wouldn't have even crossed my mind. So,
yeah, and see, like to me, like I'm like I think a lot of people, obviously, bad guy wise, Eldred Jonas is probably the bigger, right? Like one of the bigger bad guys, but he didn't even get nominated on this because I don't think anyone dislikes him. I think he's like one of the ones you love to like see in the story. Like he's I don't know. It's just like he's not one that's like I don't know. There's something Weasley about Thorin.
Thorin makes your skin crawl. Is the big thing. Like that's the thing with him is like stuff that he does. Like you said, the stuff he does to the hallways and the closets and like that. Yeah. That makes your skin crawl. Yeah. And that's actually, like as soon as I thought about it in that context, it's like, oh God, yeah, he absolutely deserves
Plus how he's treating his wife too, right?
Yeah, no kidding. Like the whole dinner, like and everything like that. And Roland like calls her on her Susan on her shit and everything.
Well, no, I'm talking about like the fact he's basically replacing his wife.
Yeah, he's basically well, and that's the other thing, yeah. Like the dinner, like he moves her from like he should have honestly how he should have done it is he should have had one on each side of him. That's what he should have done. But no, instead he moves her like all the way down the end of the table, totally disrespecting her in front of everyone, including the boys from Gilead. So
yeah, it's like I guess I was just surprised. Just maybe I don't know. Maybe I was shocked that Stephen King got nominated, but the fact that he was nominated so many times like made me think that maybe he would actually win at least a round. And especially when it ended up lining up that Thorin was the one he was going against. I'm like, okay, yeah, Stephen King.
Oh
might
yeah, because he got a
breeze
buy,
past this.
didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he did.
Because he had so because that's what you did. Is like I think you did say it that the ones that had the buy were the ones that had the most nominations.
Yeah, like ones that were nominated multiple times.
It's kind of shocking to see him have so many nominations and then get beat.
Yeah,
in his first show up.
Yeah, and it could be the way that everyone obviously interprets things differently. But
Sure.
Now the next one here to talk about is Sylvia Pittston, which won last round, and she's the actual inspiration for this tournament. You know, if we were going to label it, it would be the Sylvia Pittston tournament because she's it's her reading her portion that gave me the idea for this whole thing.
Yeah.
But she goes up against probably what we expect to be probably the biggest powerhouse in this tournament, Rhea of the Coos. Rhea absolutely destroyed her, 91% to 9%.
Oh, good Lord.
So it's the most lopsided affair. Early on, obviously, we're only in the second round, but it was easily, I mean, nothing came close to this. I think like we're in the 75 range for most of like round one and stuff like that was like, that were quote unquote like runaways, but yeah, 91%, that was like pretty resounding there, for sure. Next up, Calvin Tower beat Benny Slightman the Younger 75 to 25. That one doesn't surprise me. Calvin tends to get under my skin quite a bit.
Yeah.
Just because of like his selfishness, I guess.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He's just like I don't know, he's so incompetent and just brainless and like he just puts everyone at risk because of it, like himself and like.
And then and then the worst part is like when someone calls him on it. Eddie does it. Roland does it. Aaron does it. He's like, but you're no.
Yeah.
Like he's not even willing to like look at the facts. And it's like, we even talked about this in our last book club with Susanna.
Yeah.
With Odetta.
Yeah.
And she's just like, he's like, but every time I poke a hole in your little theory, you just say your head hurts and you don't want to talk about it anymore. Like you're not willing to discuss this like an adult and take, fresh eyes on it.
Yeah.
And she gets all pissed at him and it's just like, God, that's so infuriating.
Yeah, indeed. Next up was actually probably the closest because round one was pretty well. Everything was like in the 60 to 70 percentile. It was pretty wide margin wins in round one. But round two here we get our first squeaker. Blaine the Mono beating Mia 51 to 49.
Ooh,
really close one there. So yeah,
but not the closest we had.
No, but that definitely one where I was like, okay, cool. Like it made me feel better because I'm like, I hopefully these aren't all blowouts. Hopefully there's some close ones here.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have more to come here. So Mordred got a healthy win over Ben Slightman, 68 to 32.
Ben Slightman, the older.
Yeah, the older of the two. So 32% obviously going to the traitor here, but yeah, Mordred easily beats him. The Crimson King wiped the floor with Andrew Quick, 78% of the vote.
Wow.
So that one was pretty resounding. And then Cordelia Delgado, 66% of the vote over Andy the Robot.
Yeah.
So you got that one there. And then the last one, the most unlikely of all things, we actually had a dead tie, exactly. 50-50.
Yep.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
Stop it.
Which was Jack Morton Gasher. So I actually texted you about this.
He did.
I'm like, what the hell do we do with this?
Yeah. We didn't establish like tiebreakers or anything like that beforehand when we were talking about it because honestly it was like, yeah, that's not.
Yeah. So we just went with Gasher because he was the higher seed because he had more people nominate him. So as much as it broke my heart, we did give it to him because I think Jack Mort is certainly a deplorable character that deserves his time in the sun. But yeah, that was definitely one of the ones. And a lot of people mentioned that too, being one where it's like, how is this happening so early? This is quite the matchup. And it really is. So next time, if we ever do this again in the future and revisit the most hated, we will definitely make sure that those two are on different sides of the board.
For sure.
So then we get to round three, which just ended recently. And this one, we see Gasher beating Blaine the Mono with a strong 70% of the vote. And that one, I guess Gasher surprised me a little bit. Like he is obviously one of the worst characters. But I guess there was just part of me that didn't really like when I first had this idea, I'm like, okay, it's going to end up being like Mordred and Rhea is my thought process of like, that's your finals in my opinion. That's what it's going to be.
Sure.
So I don't know. There was Gasher is just one that like he is deplorable, but I guess I just didn't expect him to win and win so handily through as much as he has. But yeah, to tie out with Jack Morton and here to just dominate Blaine is an interesting one for me.
Well, I think the big thing to think about with Gasher, and you might not think about this that way, is that dude, a large part of book 3 is him just abusing Jake. Like, literally,
Yeah.
like, just physically, verbally, and emotionally,
Mentally,
just running that kid through a gauntlet. And then, like, Jake gets the impression that Roland's dead because they hear, like, the fountain crash and everything. And he's about to give up and everything, but he still has to deal with Gasher. And it's just like, dude, when you look at the quartet, the 4, not even counting Oi, but just the 4, is there anyone that treats any one of the 4 worse than how Gasher treats Jake?
I don't know. That's
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, I mean, like, Susanna gets treated like shit when she gets taken in the Dixie Pig,
yeah.
but they still don't do anything to her physically or even mentally a little bit. Emotionally a little bit, they're like taunting her that, you know, Jake and that Eddie and Roland are dead in Maine and everything like that. But physically they can't harm her because of Mia.
Yeah.
And then Roland really never, I mean, he loses fingers and stuff like that, but he's never ever, like,
I was going to say,
tortured.
the only one that I would say is Court, even though that's more built into their society. I would say that comes closest to, like, mental and physical, quote unquote, abuse, right?
Yeah.
Like, under the pretense of obviously training him to be a gunslinger, but some might look at that as being the only thing similar to what maybe Jake went through, and it would have been longer. Obviously, that would have been years under Court. So, but obviously, again, you're talking about societal differences. We would probably see that as abuse if But obviously, that society, like, you're basically building soldiers from the cradle almost.
Not even just soldiers, generals. Is
like
what
knights.
They would be more like. Is like, like they lead armies into battle. In wars and stuff like that. But then they also govern. They also peacekeepers, executioners. We see in the scene with Hax, the cook, and everything like that. So, like, that aspect of it is definitely, you're absolutely right. Way longer, way more into it. But I mean, like, we get so much detail with what Gasher does to Jake. And everything, and just like, it's understandable why people hate that motherfucker.
Absolutely.
And on top of it, I mean, everything that's done to Susanna, Eddie, Roland, all that stuff is like, you brought it up accurately with Roland. I mean, he was a kid, and that's what the Jake part is that, dude, this kid's been through enough, man. Just give him a fucking break.
Yeah, he's already died. He's already died twice.
He's already almost been eaten by a freaking Dutch Hill, the monster, the doorkeeper.
Yeah.
Or whatever it's called. He almost fell off the bridge trying to save his buddy Oi. And everything, the one that you would have just, let go, and all that, and then, and not even that, but also when you look at, like, Jake's past as well, it's just like you just want to hug the kid, like, with his parents and everything, and then to get treated like that for part of the book, it's just like, God damn it, dude, like, this guy's a piece of shit. So, yeah, he's got my vote every time so far.
Yeah, indeed. Now this is an interesting one. In a tight one, 53-47. Cordelia Delgado beat the literal manifestation of all evil, the Crimson King.
That one shocked me so
beat
bad.
Satan, for fuck's sake.
Holy shit.
Like, literally, like, is there a worse creature in all of Kings? Like, that's literally, like, the one that basically puts everything else in motion throughout, like, I mean, we don't see it, like, explicitly, but like, what, like, my interpretation is that Crimson King's basically behind every evil in all of Stephen King's work in one way or another, because he is the ultimate foundational evil, right? Like, I see him as basically Satan. So Cordelia Delgado beats Satan.
Yep.
That's hilarious to me.
She's a wench, that's for sure.
Yeah, when we got her in, like, I think I started to realize, like, almost instantly when putting her into this whole thing, that she might be a dark horse to win the whole thing even. And yeah, she's definitely showed up thus far.
For sure. I mean, she makes it into the final 4.
Yeah.
That's and not only that, but she also beats one of the more deplorable characters, in my opinion, Andy the Robot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, indeed.
And she beat him pretty handily, right?
Yeah, that one was that wasn't a squeaker by any means.
I don't think she's had one so far.
No. And next up, Mordred, still showing strong, 71% over Mayor Thorin. So Thorin definitely does not have any magic against the Oi Slayer.
Oh, come on.
Dude, is he getting votes for any other reason? Let's be honest here. Because, I mean, we even talked about it. Maybe it was on Twitter. I don't even know if it got onto the show or not, or if we did. But, dude, like, really, Mordred, you have to have some feeling for. Like, he has some, like, elements where you kind of feel bad for him. Like, and it's one of those things, like, if it wasn't for, in some ways, like, his nature, or like his his like dark soul, like he would have maybe been like better off like almost forsaking the evil and going to like the quartet, you know what I mean, openly. But it's like, so like I feel like King kind of gives you like a side of him before he does his acts that makes you feel for him, you know, enough to where it's like he's not just like deplorable from the word go, right? Like,
yeah, he is. He's a freaking baby Billy Bumbler.
So
fucking monster.
So a random Billy Bumbler makes him evil. I mean,
dude, that's like eating a puppy. That's even worse than eating a puppy. He can talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking early on, right?
He's a baby when he does that. That's when the fucking Nigel the robot brings it to him.
Yeah, okay. I
like,
mean, I just don't think that he's as like deplorable as like
I'm surprised you're saying this, considering that early on he kills Flag.
Like Rhea, I feel like from the word go, like it's a deplorable. I just feel like with Mordred, you actually get a little bit more balance with him, where you kind of see like you feel some compassion for him, I think, as a reader.
I think for me the compassion didn't come in until later on when he's sick and cold and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like early on I was just terrified of him. Like he ate his mother at birth. Like that's terrifying.
No, that's true. That's true. So it is more the middle portion that's like, okay, you
start to feel bad, like he's forsaken by everything that's ever come before him.
Yeah.
He almost got killed by one of his mothers.
And hey, he kills Mia. That's got to give him some credit, right?
I don't hate Mia.
I just hate her just because of like the nonsense it causes with the quartet, I guess. That's the thing I've always hated about her.
She's definitely one that drives me nuts at times, because it goes back to like our flag summit. I understand if you want to get something. I understand if you have to do something that hurts people to get something. But if you're doing something that hurts people to further yourself, man, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like that's just low.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why she should screw over Susanna. There's no reason why she should have Eddie, Jake, Roland, Oy, and Father Callahan killed. Like, why would they not help you? You know, that kind of thing and everything like that. Instead, she goes all out for the only people that could save all of existence. And Susanna even calls her on that bullshit. What are you going to do when the Crimson King topples the tower because we're all dead? Well, me and my Mordred will be together, so it doesn't matter. Oh, fuck you.
Indeed. Mark says, told you, Cordelia for the win, called it. Yeah, you made that prediction pretty much early on in the whole thing.
When we first introduced this, we called it, like, because we were doing, that's when we asked the chat for suggestions, and I was writing them down.
Yeah.
That was one that we wrote Cordelia and a few of the other ones, but Cordelia was one that got mentioned quite a few times, first by Mark, and then he called it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then Jack says, I feel like Rhea has a personal evil to the characters and us, whereas the Crimson King has an overarching evil to the whole universe. Yeah, Rhea's definitely a more like,
for sure,
a more direct evil. But what I'm saying with her is like she's just like deplorable from the beginning, right? She's not like one that
from the word go.
Yeah, there's never a point when you're like, oh, I kind of feel for this even when like, you know,
you can't even say this woman. You couldn't even say this woman. It's this creature.
Yeah, she is a creature. But even like even when she's like mourning her dead snake, right? Like you don't even feel bad for her.
How can I feel bad for her? She sent the snake to go kill someone.
Yeah, indeed.
And that person defended themselves. Like, oh, I'm supposed to feel bad for you?
Yeah. And then last up here is proving to be the powerhouse. Rhea netted 82% of the vote over a deplorable Calvin Tower.
Damn.
Certainly no love for Tower in our group, and I think that just proves just the strength of Rhea in this tournament to beat Calvin Tower by that much. Because like, okay, if you beat like I don't know, throw out any other ones, but like Tower, I feel like is one that should be getting some like that. That should have been a closer one. The fact that it isn't shows like Rhea is still the front runner. She is still.
So here's my wondering for this. When you look at some of these characters like this matchup here, Calvin Tower versus Rhea, when you look at how much they're actually in the books.
Yeah.
Calvin's definitely has a smaller part than Rhea. Rhea's only in book 4, obviously.
Yeah. Calvin has a tiny appearance in 3 and then a little bit more later on.
Yeah, a little bit in 3, a little bit in 5, and
like when he gives the books, like you get him there, but he's not even a deplorable character at that point.
Well, he's an annoying character in 5 because that's where he's like, you have to hide some of my most precious work.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about book 3 though. Like when he gives the books over. Yeah,
he gives the books over to Jake. There's really nothing in book 3, but in book 5, where Eddie goes and saves him from Jack Andolini.
Yeah.
And he's
yeah.
Oh yeah,
I'm just talking about even
yeah.
like book 3. It's like you could just overlook him as like maybe even like
he
a
wasn't
good
even.
character.
Yeah, he's not even in the
because he gives Jake the one book for free. He's
Absolutely.
very open to him. He's not like I'm going to call the cops because you're out of school. Like,
you're
you know.
true, and I'm going to call the cops on you.
Yeah,
and him and Aaron give him like the riddle and everything like that.
Yeah,
and they're chummy.
But then
with
as
him.
you get back to him, it's like holy shit, this guy's a fucker.
God, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, indeed. So that leaves us with our final 4, which just got posted. It's only been going for about 24 hours now, maybe even just less than that. With our final 4, Mordred versus Cordelia Delgado.
Damn.
And Rhea of the Coos against Gasher.
Damn.
There's no way I would have guessed Gasher got to the final 4. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew that he would be like a good one to get some votes, but I never would have predicted him to the final 4. I just wouldn't. I'm sorry. That's just
the two that don't surprise me in the slightest is Rhea the Coos and Mordred.
Yeah,
those two are just like
we expected them to be the finals.
If someone walked to me and says, "Hey, I'll give you $1,000, most hated character in the Dark Tower," what are most people going to say? Oh, Mordred or Rhea?
Yeah,
like either one of those. But then like the Gasher, I get Gasher. I just never thought about it.
Yeah, me too.
I never thought about Gasher, but I get it. But Cordelia is the shocker for me. It's just like when Mark said it, like, oh, she's gonna win, and I'm like, yeah, she'll go far. I'm sure she'll win a round or two, but not enough people hate her the way I mean. I despise her, and I'm just like, yeah, but that's just gonna be me.
Yeah,
not many other people are gonna feel the way that I feel.
Yeah,
it's just me because like I know what it's like to have a family member just be like a piece of shit to you.
Yeah,
and and you see the effects on like a loved one that I have that had that happen to them. It's just like, it's just not fun to go with. And I know what it's like to have that. So I despise that a little bit more just for personal reasons. I'm like, oh, not everyone's going to have that. But looking at this, it's just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, she's a freight train coming through, guys. Look out.
Yeah. And we have had some votes in because it's been up for a bit now. Like I said, about 24 hours. I'm not going to give any results right now because it's still ongoing. But
we don't want to sway anything.
I will say the results are interesting thus far. Indeed.
I'll take a peek at them after.
Indeed, they are very interesting at this point. And you have until May 12th at midnight to vote. And I do believe I was looking at the calendar. That is Sunday, so that'll be after we record next. So we'll have a book club next time, which is next week. And basically Sunday at midnight Mountain Time, that poll will end, and we will start with our finals.
We should just leave our finals up until right before we record next.
Yeah, we could
after the book club. Because have the final one, just leave it open until, because why close it?
Yeah, let's
leave it open until we get ready to record.
Yeah, we could do that.
Like the night before, because like if we record, we're gonna record again on the 25th, right?
Is that what it is?
It's a Saturday, so we're gonna record next weekend, which is the 11th.
Yeah, so
so the final 4 will end on the 12th, and then from the 13th to the 24th, we'll just leave it open for the final.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. So go ahead and everyone get over there, darktowerpalaver.com, and vote for our final 4. Who do you hate more, Mordred or Cordelia? And on the other side of the bracket, Rhea or Gasher. See who we get here. And dude, I mean, honestly, if it comes down, like I said, like from the word go, once I had this idea, I'm like, it's going to be Rhea and Mordred in the finals. Who's going to win? Who knows? But I think we're at a spot now again where it's like, okay, there's some interesting things that have happened, and it'll be interesting to see where we go. So that is it for that.
Jack says in the chat before we move away from it, I know he beats up Jake. He's talking about Gasher, and he is horrible, but I find him too funny. Ribbly, tibbly, ting, ting, ting.
Yeah, it's multifaceted for me with him. Like, again, I hate what he does to Jake. There is some funny stuff, like Jack's pointing out, but there is one aspect is if I tried not to read that portion if I'm eating or listen to it, because when it starts to explain graphically his wounds and his pus-filled
his pustules.
Yeah. There's just certain things, like, I don't get squeamish, but there's times that it could like hedge my appetite. And so there's times where I'm like, oh, I'm heading to lunch. Like, oh, well, then let's not read because I'm right in the middle of Gasher.
Here's the funniest story about that. So I tend to turn on my audiobook when I decide to make dinner, which happens. Occasionally I'll cook. But it was just me and my daughter one night, and she wanted Velveeta shells and cheese. And I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll make that. I threw on some water, put the noodles in, and I'm in the kitchen stirring up and everything like that. Throw on my audiobook on the little Bluetooth speaker we have in the kitchen. And it's Gasher. And it's describing his pustules. Right as I open those packs and squeeze that shit, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that'll do
All right.
it. That'll do it. That'll do it. Yeah, so that is that. Now the next thing I don't have a slide for, but I just want to throw it out there. We did last week had a bonus episode.
We did. I actually got to listen to it. It was
Did
really
you?
cool. Yeah. Sorry I couldn't be there. I wish I could have with
No,
the
we just-
scheduling and everything.
Yeah, we just couldn't land both. It was,
Yep.
couldn't land your schedule with his schedule, and like, which is fine. We got it taken care of for sure. But yeah, it was. So we're talking about EJ Buchan, the one that did the Dark Tower Lego project that was shared with us on Twitter. Did we brought it up on the episode, right?
We did.
And we looked
We
at
did.
like before that. But yeah, so we talked about it to him in depth. Talked to him about the Dark Tower and his fandom and stuff. And it was a lot of fun. It was cool to talk to him, to hear insights on that, on both his project and like the Lego world, as well as just his fandom of Dark Tower. And
It was really funny. He was telling, like, if you guys haven't listened to it, I'm going to give you just a little sneak peek. There was one part where Tad was asking him about, like, what do you say to people who have never read The Dark Tower? And he's like, well, first and foremost, first thing I always have to say to most people is, yeah, this isn't from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
that got me. I was
Yeah.
I was listening to it, like, actually in the laundromat doing laundry.
yeah.
I had my headphones in and I just started laughing, and I got a couple weird looks at me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I'm sure, especially as you were like when he first did the project, it was closer to when you were in the Lord of the Rings mania.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm certainly not shocked that was
Yeah.
a common thing. But yeah, so that was a really cool thing, and we definitely thank him for joining us on the interview there.
It was great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to talk to him, and we also have the show notes from last episode included his website and the organization he's involved with. If you guys want to keep an eye on that for calendars and stuff,
Yeah.
to look for events that he'll be going to if they come to a town near you, go ahead and go to the event and maybe shout out Dark Tower Palaver to him or
Yeah.
something. I don't know, that'd be fun. So yeah, we just wanted to mention that if anyone saw that, was maybe like, well, that's weird. We didn't mention in the last episode because I was still like trying to make sure that everything was like settled, and I want to like
Yeah.
say something in
It
case
was-
things didn't.
It was
work
still
out.
it was still in flux when we recorded last time.
Yeah,
Because you recorded with him right after,
Right.
like later that night, right?
yeah, a little bit later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's where I had something going on. So
yeah.
that's yeah. It was interesting to hear, like, is he actually going to be able to? And then I got the notification, bing, Dark Tower Palaver is live, and I was like, oh shit, he actually was able to get him. Yes.
Yeah, it was. It's just one of those things. Just coordinating is always a fun thing. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So if you guys haven't listened to that yet, definitely check it out.
For sure.
It was a lot of fun. And yeah, again, keep an eye on that calendar. If one of the Lego events
Yeah.
is coming your direction, definitely go check it out. It's pretty cool what
Sure.
people do with Lego. Like, I'm amazed by it because I just
Yeah.
can't. Like, I wasn't even into like a huge Lego I was more like Star Wars toys and stuff,
Mhm.
but like, like me, I'd be like, oh, I made a house,
It's
versus like a Dark Tower that's, tens of thousands of pieces.
no, yeah, it's funny that my wife got for Christmas a couple years ago. She got one of the Lego has like little figurines.
Yeah.
They're almost like Funko Pops that you build yourself. She got one. I think it was Iron Man was one of her first ones. And she got addicted. She's like, wow, this is really fun. There's like, like 100 pieces, or maybe something like that at most. Takes like maybe 30 minutes for her to build, but it's a cool little figurine to have up on her desk at work and everything.
Yeah.
We went on our anniversaries in February. We went on our anniversary to the Lego store, and they had the back wall, and he brings it up in the episode. On the back wall, they just have pick your Lego,
Yeah.
fill up a bag, buy it,
Yeah.
and you can just make whatever you want from that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, do you want to just get a bag and you just make whatever you want? She's like, fuck, I don't know what to make. I'm not that cool. Give me instructions and I know what to make, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's what she's like. Because so like we were walking around looking for something for her to build, and they didn't have any more of the characters that she wanted to do. So she actually ended up buying a little figurine of the Strip, Las Vegas,
Oh, okay.
and was built that. And she's like, "Oh my god, this is fun too." And I was like, "Oh god, here we go."
So, like what I think is, I swear Costco should just have 55-gallon drums of Lego blocks.
I heard you say that. That was fucking
like,
amazing.
Seriously, you should. Like, you sell everything else in like ungodly quantities. Why not Lego? They'd make a killing on it. They would.
You know what would happen is people would actually die from that.
Yeah.
Because like you spill that out on the ground, and all of a sudden people start tripping everywhere, stepping on Legos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, okay, how the next Home Alone movie?
Yeah.
55-gallon drum of Legos.
Okay, so next up is actually one that I actually added to the episode a little bit late. It's a little bit of talk about Pet Sematary. So I have a podcast I listen to. It's called the Q&A with Jeff Goldsmith. And it's he does interviews with filmmakers. It's kind of a film, like a film one, whether you call it filmmaking. It can get a little bit inside baseball. But he had an episode with Kevin Kolish and Dennis Widmeyer, which is the directors of Pet Sematary.
Oh, cool.
And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I don't listen to every episode of his, but like, I pick and choose. Like, if I've seen a movie, I'll be like, oh, cool, I'll listen to it. It was a really in-depth conversation, way longer than the episodes usually are, a couple hours, probably closer to our time frame for episodes. And when they talked to these guys, they kind of went through their career and stuff, but they talked about some stuff about Pet Sematary, because it's one of their first studio films. And they mentioned some cool details about the project and working on it. They also teased an alternate ending that is even darker than what was in the film.
Oh, Jesus.
And that it'll be on the Blu-ray. So there's some cool stuff that they pimped out there that I can't wait to see the Blu-ray. Now, I don't have a slide because I forgot to do, when I was doing the slide.
Well, like you said, you added it late.
I added this pretty late in the work, because I was like, oh yeah, I gotta mention this. But a few things. First of all,
are major spoilers coming from the movie?
Yes.
Okay, just in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, that's true.
Spoilers for the new Pet Sematary
movie.
Not the original, the new one that just came out in theaters. Go.
Yeah. Now, did you make the connection with the opening shots and the ending?
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently, some people missed that.
Oh, I totally knew that was foreshadowing.
Because they brought that up, that like, because the ending kind of ends in a way where you're like,
well, that's how the book goes. Is Judd's house burns down.
Well, no, but like the fact that the car door is open and there's blood and that kind of stuff, along with taking that to the ending, like kind of gives you more, because you kind of cut off without seeing a whole. Apparently, some people just didn't connect the dots on that, and so they mentioned that, and I was like, all right, I'll at least mention that. But here's the thing that one of them mentioned, and I was driving, so I couldn't like stop it and like get a timestamp and stuff. But one of the two mentioned this, and they said they mentioned we were talking about Judd, and they said that he buried his dog that obviously came back, but then they mentioned that he buried Norma there and then had to kill her. Did you get that from the movie? Because like, I remember a point when like somebody's going upstairs, and I was like, "Watch, fucking Norma's going to be in the room alive." Right. But like that didn't happen.
You said that after we got out.
I did. Yeah.
Outside the theater, when we have our little, we always stand outside the theater and talk about the movie that we just watched before we get in our separate cars and go our separate ways. And that was one thing that you said. It's like, dude, I thought he was gonna have fucking Norma upstairs, like chained to a bed or something.
Yeah. And like, but they mentioned that in just a way where like, that the pieces are there, and I'm like, I did not like. I thought I thought that was coming more because the way the scene was built. I don't know that there was anything like, but maybe there was a look that John Lithgow gave when asked about people. Maybe that's what it was that turned me onto it. So maybe there is some pieces there though. But from their interpretation, he put Norma in the Pet Sematary and had to kill her.
Damn.
So that's an interesting twist. That's not obviously in the novel, and that is not even explicit in the film. But and I wonder if there's any deleted scenes or anything. But I don't know. I just had to bring that up because I was just like, "What the fuck?" I audibly said it in my car. I'm like, "What the fuck?" Like, and then
no, I did not get that impression.
Yeah, I was just like, "Holy shit!" Like I thought because of the way that things were structured that we were going to see her, but not that because I had like picked up like 7 clues that told me that like that had happened. But
no, yeah, I'm trying to think back and remember. I don't remember anything like jumping out at me where I'm like, yeah, for sure, like that's.
Yeah, I'll be anxious to watch it again on Blu-ray and kind of watch. And I mean, he has the gun. I'm trying to remember, like, was there a point that there was like casings or like I'm trying to think of some of the ideas of whatever, like, because like Ellie finds the gun, and like
the one thing I would say is that when Ellie goes to find the gun, right next to the gun is a picture of his wife.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so maybe it's just
used on.
Yeah,
her?
that's what I'm wondering. So it'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, when they fucking dropped that on me, dude, it knocked my socks off. I was like, what the fuck? Like,
Jesus.
And I wanted to like rewind it, but I'm like on the road driving, and I'm like, I can't like.
You're like, hold on, let me listen to this again.
Yeah. So and it was like I said, it was a long podcast, and that was like in the first like. I mean, the first like third or so of the episode was them talking about their career leading up to like that point, and then like when they started talking about the movie, you weren't that far into it. So where by the time I got to the like where I was at, like I was so far past it, I'm like I can't really rewind and find it again. But I was like I got to bring it up if nothing else. So there is that I wanted to mention. But now we'll get into everything we got going. So as we normally do, news kind of goes in order. So this was shortly after our last episode. Or when was our last episode actually? Let's see, we're on the 3rd now, because this was on the April 14th.
Yeah, April 12th or no, the 13th is when we recorded.
Okay, so it was just after we recorded.
Yeah.
That I got this in the old notifications, and this is Amazon's The Dark Tower to be shot in Croatia, looking for extras. We already knew about Croatia. That was kind of part of the hashtag shows thing. But this is from Iva Tasit. I don't know. I don't even know how you'd say it. Her last name there. But from Total Croatian News on April 14th, 2019. So this is a local thing, which is kind of cool. So here we have, I just have some, there's some interesting things in here. So numerous articles have been written about the many projects filming filming international blockbuster TV shows and movies in Croatia. Game of Thrones is the first one in recent years that started the trend, and now seems that not a week goes by without another major show being filmed in Croatia. And today we're reporting another highly anticipated show made by one of the biggest show business companies in the world, Amazon. And their project, the Dark Tower series, based on a series of novels by Stephen King, will be filmed in Croatia soon. And not only that, but the show's production is actively searching for extras. The filming of the show's pilot should take place in Rijeka. I don't know how to say it exactly. In the period between May 22nd and June 14th of this year. So that is coming up very quickly.
Yeah.
So obviously what I did at this point is I tangented myself as doing the research to look up Rijeka. And found some pictures for it, the coastal town. So first picture here, kind of to get an idea of what you're looking at. Again, we don't really know what's going on necessarily for this. Like, I think a lot of us are going to assume Gilead.
No.
Well, for episode 1, because this is the pilot. This is one episode.
We're just filming the pilot.
So,
well, I'm just wondering because Gilead never really gives me the sense that it's waterfront based.
No,
but maybe the downtown portions, I could see the high street and the high, Gilead and everything like that. But instantly when you pulled up this picture, the first thing I thought of, okay, there's the fisherman's place. Where's the drop?
Yeah.
For mages,
Yeah, and that could very well be. So let's go ahead and look at the next picture here.
Okay, a little bit more castle-y here down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what led me to finding
castle.
They
actual fucking castle.
Indeed have a castle that was, I forget the name of the or who it was, but basically this castle predates the Roman conquest of this area. So this is a legitimate castle of a legitimate era. This is something
from
else.
Long time ago.
Yeah, and then another picture here that I found.
A whole nother castle.
I'm not sure if this is a different one or if this is, but either way, what I'm seeing now, there's part of me that's okay, Gilead, they could easily find some Gilead stuff here, and then kind of
an aerial down of a castle that's overlooking a river, more mountains and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely could be easily made into Gilead for sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I found. Rijeka, I think is how you may say it. I don't know. Hopefully I'm not butchering that too bad.
And if so, Croatia, we apologize.
Yeah, indeed. And then here's another interesting portion here. Kind of what they're looking for. The production agency in charge of casting has posted on their Facebook profile they need some extras for the pilot, not disclosing which show it's for, but Novi List reported that it's about that it's for the Dark Tower. So there's some piecing together going on here.
Yep.
They've already done one round of auditions, but the second they are looking for, and here's the list of things they're looking for: ethnic adults, strong athletic men and women, nurses, people with dwarfism, or extreme high people. I don't know, if that's a translation difference. Maybe it could be tall people. People with musical experience, and then in parentheses, trumpets and drums, and people with dancing experience.
The dancing in Gilead.
That's now the dwarfism is kind of I don't know on that. That's kind of out of left field a little bit. But the rest of it, yeah, I could easily see we got some Gilead sounding stuff here. So that's that's
interesting.
One thing that we got. And the dates. I mean, we're talking the 22nd.
Just a few weeks away.
Yeah, so 19 days, right?
Yeah.
19 days away from when we're recording currently.
say thank you, Sam.
It was when they're reporting that it'll start, and going from the 22nd to June 14th, that's a pretty quick thing. I mean, it could very well be that
If
some
they're
of
only
that set building
if
and
they're
stuff
only
like that.
if they're only shooting one episode for the pilot and everything
should
like
be
that,
plenty.
that's
Yeah.
plenty.
Yeah, indeed. So that's kind of interesting. Fun little thing to bump across in the news here. So next up, we have an article. Game of Thrones star quits acting and bought a holiday cottage before bagging his role in Game of Thrones by Kelly Jenkins from the Mirror on April 20th, 2019. And it's a pretty cool article. Kind of like one of those things, like he was basically given up. He hadn't really got any roles that were anything meaningful. So he bought himself a little cottage, and yeah, he was done. He was hanging it up when he got the call to take the role. And we're talking about Jerome Flynn here, which is plays Bronn of the fucking Blackwater.
Yeah. One of Tad's favorite characters.
Who doesn't love him? Let's be honest here. He's like one of the best characters in the show.
He is very funny.
And then at the very end of the article, fitting with everything here, it says in his next part is another fantasy, one of his own. He will play a cowboy in a dramatic dramatization of Stephen King's 7-book series, the Dark Tower series. So, and then a quote here, Jerome says, "I've always said I'd like to play a cowboy, and now one has come along. I'm excited for that."
Shit.
So we got Bronn in the Dark Tower. I didn't know if you'd heard about that because that hit Reddit on one of the television subreddit or something, to where I was like, Peter might see this.
I took the television and movie subreddits off.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
In anticipation for Dark Tower news.
Oh, okay.
Because I took it back off 2.5, maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
Because that's, I mean, even when we started the show, we had the rumors going around that it was going to be movie, TV show, movie, TV show, movie.
Yeah.
To do the show. So I started seeing stuff on there like casting suggestions and rumors and stuff like that. And I was like, I got to save this for the show, because we liked the format that we got now, where I come in and I learn about this new stuff from you.
Yeah,
you know, I hear about things, obviously, that
some things
things do get through, but yeah, television and movie subreddits, I don't.
Okay,
I didn't keep them.
So
So yeah, this is news to me.
So that brings up the natural question: who will Jerome Flynn play? And we had this conversation on Twitter a little bit already, but I'm curious, to discuss it with you.
There's a lot of different options.
He does say cowboy, so that would somewhat limit it.
It does limit it to, I think, only one of two types of characters. Either he's going to be a gunslinger, which Steven?
Okay, so there's a couple things to keep in mind. Like I mentioned earlier, are we going to get to Magus? Because there's people that have obviously predicted like Magus characters for him,
like Jonas or DePay.
Jonas is probably the outlying leader for him. Is a lot of people are saying Jonas, but are we going to get there?
If we're looking at pilot and we're looking at Gilead only, I mean, it all depends on how they do the pilot. I mean, for all we know, the pilot may start with Susanna walking up to Rhea the Coos, and then we get flashbacks to Gilead.
The other thing too is we could see like Roland stuff going on at Gilead at the same time. We could see things like the coffin hunters arriving at Magus.
Sure.
Watching Patrick Delgado being killed. Or maybe his funeral. I mean, there's a number of things they could do to establish all of the characters in the first episode, even if Roland doesn't get there.
Sure.
So that's a thought process. But I'm just saying, as you predict, let's remember this is for a pilot. So if you don't think that we're going to get to Magus, I wouldn't predict a Magus person. Is all I'm saying. So
no, I got you.
But you said Steven.
I could see Steven. He's not young. He's not old, and Steven's never really described as like ancient or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I could see him playing Steven Deschain, being the father.
Okay.
And everything like that, which would be a little bit of a smaller part, which I don't know if I would predict that. I would honestly, I mean, if I have to put my money in it, I would say that Roland's going to get to Magus in episode 1 in the pilot. I think that the stuff with Court and I think the stuff with his mom and Flag are going to be very early on and very telling. I think the episode would probably maybe end with him meeting Susanna, and we may get introduced to Eldred Jonas.
Yeah, and that's the only thing for me as I piece together everything we have, and assuming it's all in the pilot that's Gilead based, we might get the quartet into Magus, but I can't see them getting to the dinner where we'd meet all these characters. Because there's so much to happen. You got Rhea, Susan, you got Roland, Susan, you've got there's just so much going on that's like I don't know that all of that can happen at the tail end of but there's a lot of filmmaking things. What if some of the Magus or the Gilead stuff is cross cut to where we kind of see it as the story progresses?
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, what if the show opens and it's Susan heading up to Rhea, and we get her meeting with Roland, and we get flashbacks to Gilead, what led him there.
Yeah.
Because that very well could be a possibility.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that would be a really interesting. I mean, just imagine episode 1 is just Susan going up, having the confrontation with Rhea, meeting Roland, and then their walk back to town. But during the walk, Roland has the flashbacks to Gilead, to his trial, to what happened in his mother's apartment.
Yeah.
To being sent to Magus by his father.
Yeah. But it's
that very well could fit very nicely into an episode. Jack says, I think I'm going to have the Amazon pilot on repeat on my laptop so the views keep going up.
Yeah. I think we should all commit to that.
Just leave it on, plugged in, muted, and just repeat.
Now, here's the thing. The other thing, too, is I feel like some of the Gilead stuff might be extended because
could be,
it feels like the Flag stuff. Because it feels to me like they're talking a lot about Flag and Roland, and like they're building up that antagonistic relationship. So there's part of me that thinks that like there's a lot that we already know that they could do, but I wonder if they'll add even more. You know?
I definitely. We talked about this with the casting of the guy that's playing Flag, and I forgot his name. Is
Pat Conan?
Yeah, is a great actor, and we saw that scene from
Black Klansman.
Black Klansman. Thank you. All I was thinking was KKK in my head, which of course, yeah. So, I would imagine they would want to use him. I mean, he's an asset, not a hindrance or anything like that. He's a great actor. That scene alone, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup.
Yeah,
I couldn't pick another movie that he's played in. But that scene alone that you showed me just shows that, dude, he's got it.
Yeah,
he can play a really good Flag. I think he's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I think it's going to be really, really cool to see him more so than we saw Flag in Mages, in Wizard and Glass on its whole. If they made it to where he has a more prominent role and is more hands-on, maybe, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, indeed. So the predominant theory, I mean, I even threw out Court. It would be atypical.
Well,
because
is Court a cowboy? I mean,
that I think that
that's where I would draw the line.
Yeah. And
that's why I didn't go there.
And of course, body size, people would think of Court being a little bit bigger and stuff.
Yeah.
More barrel chested, like the books and comic books portray him. But I could easily see. We obviously know if you watch Game of Thrones, he has spent some time training people.
And he does have the snarky attitude when he trains too.
Yeah.
Which Court has, like you maggots.
Yeah. And I could see him pulling that off. So I told people Jonas is my number one pick, but I said I could easily see him being Court as well as a dark horse pick. I said, Jonas is number one, and that was like predominant. Like it was like 80% of people saying like it's probably going to be Jonas.
Absolutely.
Steven was obviously mentioned as well. But yeah, there was part of it's like could be a Court. You never know. It would be not your I guess I don't know, like not your predictable pick for Court, but I could see him pulling it off.
Absolutely.
That's something. So then there was a lot of, obviously this is a big thing, so there's a lot of articles, but one I actually, as I was skimming through all these articles that were saying the exact same fucking thing, I found one that said something different a little bit. Okay. Amazon's, I guess, let me see if I got this here. Amazon Studios, and it has the same picture, which is kind of funny because they're all using like the same couple pictures for him. Amazon Studios, The Dark Tower gains Game of Thrones alum Jerome Flynn by Marianne Butler from Bleeding Cool on April 22nd, 2019. There's one little quip here that may put to rest any speculation.
Go on.
And she says they have a quote no, I'm sorry, this is my saying. She has a quote that she pulled from an Italian Comic-Con.
Okay.
Yeah, which is something else. But this is a quote allegedly from Mr. Jerome Flynn at this Italian Comic-Con. And he says, "I'm not the main character, but I play the father. They asked me what I wanted to be, and I thought I had a cowboy inside me, and this is very close. They made a film that's not very good, but I have a positive feeling about this project."
Steven.
So, yeah, that pretty much settles.
He's going to be Stephen Deshane.
He's, most likely he is Stephen Deshane to Sam Strike's Roland.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, which is your first prediction.
Yeah.
So, so that's...
Especially with that picture, like, you could definitely see, like, maybe cut the hair, make it a little bit shorter. Maybe
I don't know. I always pictured Steven having kind of that.
No, I always pictured gunslingers as having a little bit shorter hair. I don't imagine that they have it to where it get in the way or bother them. Just from like dude, I could just see Court yelling at them, "Cut your hair! It's gonna fall in your eyes at the wrong moment, you maggot."
Yeah,
something like that.
I think he has to get a heftier mustache. I just,
sure.
for me, Steven has always basically been
Tombstone.
Kurt Russell from Tombstone.
Yep, fuck yeah.
So,
I know exactly where you were going.
and even now, with like his more recent career, Hateful Eight, he was a little bit closer to the age maybe of being a
Sure.
Stephen Deshane, and he had
Even
a pretty
in,
burly mustache,
Even in like
Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah, even in like I was gonna go with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He's got the full-on facial, like the big bushy white beard, a great big bushy beard.
And see me, I just want like just the gnarly ass mustache, just like literally like take either Hateful Eight or Tombstone, Kurt Russell. That's what I've always pictured in my head for like when I see the scene in the Horrors Den. That's who I picture walking in that door is Kurt Russell from Tombstone. As we got later into life and Hateful Eight came out, I'm like, okay,
there it is.
Yeah, there,
that's him.
Yeah, he's older now. That's it. So I've that's what I've always pictured. So maybe I'm wrong to say he needs like a heftier mustache, but I always pictured the gunslingers just being like very what you see in Tombstone with the cowboys. Like that's what I've always pictured gunslingers being. So either way, I'm excited because Jerome is definitely one of the biggest show stealers in Game of Thrones. And yeah, just I love him. He's one of my favorite characters, certainly. And Mark is saying he's got to be Jonas, and I still think he would be a really good Jonas.
Yeah,
and that would give him a lot to do too. That'd be a huge upgrade for him, right?
Sure.
Because Braun of the Blackwater is a minor character. I mean, there's points that he gets a little bit heavier in the show, but I don't think he ever goes beyond like a supporting character. And I think if you give him Jonas, like you're basically giving him one of the lead villains for a good portion of the show.
He's like he would either be number 1 or number 2 villain, just depending on your point of view. Because I mean, in Wizard and Glass, who's the number 1 bad guy?
Yeah, that's
it's debatable that it's Jonas.
Yeah,
I mean, I know Flag's there, and we know Flag, and we know his history,
and Rhea,
but realistically, I mean, who's the biggest threat to Roland and his content?
It's Jonas.
It's Jonas and
it's not even the Coffin Hunters as much as Jonas. I feel like if it was just the Coffin Hunters without Jonas, I think that Roland would easily be able to outfox them.
He would easily be able to what's the game that they always talk about? Castles,
yeah.
He would easily be able to wipe the board with him.
Yeah, but I feel like when it comes to when you add Jonas, though, that's really the equalizer, because I just don't feel like the Coffin Hunters, I think the rest of them are all less experienced, more prone to like mistakes, whereas Jonas is the one that's like, no, we gotta fucking be careful. We got
which is why the Traveler's West was such an important scene, chapter in that book, because Jonas was like livid that he got one put over on him.
Yeah, and he makes an effort to not get.
Oh yeah, he waits.
Yeah,
looking for Roland. Where's Roland? Where's the third one? Not Roland, but where's that third boy?
Yeah.
And
whereas the other two are just kind of like engaged without really thinking about their surroundings and stuff like that. So yeah, he's certainly he's a sly one. But no, it sounds like if this quote is correct, then he is going to be Stephen Deshane, which is still fine by me. I think
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be an interesting one here. I wonder accent wise what he's got. Like is like what he's doing with Braun, is that his normal thing? Is that all he can do? Because I don't know that his accent works for me for any of the roles, really. With what we see in Game of Thrones.
Sure.
But it'll be interesting to see what we get from him. But yeah, that's one big piece of news for sure.
Damn.
Now, moving away from the show a tiny bit here.
Yeah.
On April 23rd, we have an article here. James Wan and Gary Dauberman tackling Stephen King's vampire tale, Salem's Lot. By Boris Kitt from The Hollywood Reporter on April 23rd, 2019. And the opening line here, Stephen King's vampire novel Salem's Lot is heading for the big screen.
Ooh.
And let's point it out, it has never been on the big screen before.
Miniseries.
It has had 2 television adaptations. It has never been on the big screen before.
That's going to be interesting, because Salem's Lot is it is a brutal book.
Yeah.
With lots of blood and gore.
Yeah.
For sure.
But this one to me feels like even less Stephen King news as much as it is Dark Tower news, because one of our quartet members is involved in this, and this will mean seeing Callahan.
Oh, Father Callahan on the big screen.
Yeah, we'll be seeing Father Callahan brought to life again, but this time on the big screen. So it's like
you freaked me the fuck out. I thought you meant like one of our listeners was going to be involved in the movie. I was like, fuck yeah!
No. Roland's quartet.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like when we talk about Pet Sematary or whatever, like there may be some tangential connections to Dark Tower, but
this
like,
one has a direct.
I don't know that there's another book that has more of a connection than this in terms of like Father Callahan is like, dude, like how much of book 5 is him? Yeah. Like he's like a major character, and there's like a good 100-something pages that is probably spent giving you his story, his background, and like so to see like and I don't have any slides for it, but I would throw it out there, and maybe the next roundtable we could talk about it. Let's start thinking, who do we want to see as Father Callahan in a movie?
Bryan Cranston.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue. He's one of the best actors.
I know how you feel
Yeah,
about
he's-
Bryan Cranston. I fucking love Bryan Cranston. I could see him playing I'd love to hear him do a Boston accent.
Yeah.
From Boston.
That'd be a good. But yeah, no, I'll throw it out to the audience too, the listeners, anyone that's out there. What do you guys think? Who do you want to see as playing Father Callahan in this James Wan thing? But we'll go.
Idris Elba. Just cast him in every Stephen King movie from now on.
And Mark says, "Have you ever seen the terrible Rob Lowe version of Salem's Lot?" I actually haven't. I have not.
Nope.
I have not. I just watched the original one. I don't know, within the last year or so. But no, I haven't got around to the Rob Lowe one. Definitely doesn't have a very good reputation.
No, it does not.
So I don't know. Rob Lowe is Rob Lowe, but there's part of me that's like, God, that's got such bad reviews. I don't know if it's even worth watching.
Yep.
But yeah, no. So we'll go ahead and get into what this has for us here. James Wan and Gary Doberman, the respective producer and writer collaborators behind many of the biggest hits of the Conjuring horror universe, are teaming up to adapt a novel for New Line Cinema.
That's why I know their names.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, James Wan, John Carpenter's still alive. But I would say of our generation now, of the modern generation, this is the master of horror. James
Is he the
Wan.
one that did Saw? The first Saw?
Yeah. Like Dead Silence. I think it lists some of his movies
Okay.
as we move on here. But he's literally like, there's no better horror director in my mind of the last of this century outside of him, and I'd almost say the best alive again, except for the fact that Carpenter's still alive.
Is Carpenter still making movies?
No,
Yeah.
he's basically said that he enjoys watching basketball and playing video games more than doing filmmaking. Hey, he's an older dude. Like, fine, let him play video games and watch basketball.
No, it's just so fucking funny because that sounds like something I would say.
Yeah,
I just enjoy watching
and-
sports and playing video games.
and let's be honest here. What does he have left to prove?
Fuck.
I mean,
no.
Some of the greatest horror movies of all time are made by that dude.
For sure.
So hang it up, dude. You're good. Doberman will write the script and serve as executive producer. Wan will produce along with Roy Lee and Mark Walper. Published in 1975, King's book centers on the author who returns to his hometown in order to write about an abandoned mansion in the small town. As he discovers the home has been bought by a mysterious man from Europe, the man also realizes the townspeople are slowly being turned into zombies. The writer bands together with a ragtag group to stop the spread of vampires, with the final confrontation happening in the house with the mysterious man. And you know what's interesting to me is when I was reading something about Salem's Lot back when I was doing, back when I read it for my King project of reading his books. This is only his second novel, and it is his first small town novel, which is interesting because that's such a bread and butter thing for Stephen King that this is the first time that he tackles the small town thing. Because Carrie wasn't really.
It was a small town.
Not really.
Yeah.
It doesn't. When does it ever deal with the town at all? It's all about the high school and the very close proximity.
The whole part of the report goes into like what townspeople.
Yeah, but you don't explore the
experience.
town in your standard King way. When you read that, it doesn't feel like your average Stephen King
Where
small town.
it's like here, let's go focus on this family for a little bit. Oh, let's go over here and focus on this.
Yeah,
Because you get the Glick family, you get the mom with the baby, the newborn baby. You get Father Callahan, the writer, the teacher. You get lots of different people. Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Let's see. Mark says, I like Rob Lowe as well. Father Callahan, I think the guy from Lost could pull it off. And then he says, sorry, I can't remember his name. He was in the wheelchair before the crash. I actually have never watched Lost, so I can't.
I'll find him. I know who he's talking about. It's the bald guy, right?
And then Jack says, anyone who makes The Thing can do what he likes. And yeah, I totally agree. I think The Thing is probably, if I had to crown a all-time greatest horror movie, like The Thing is definitely in the conversation. Also, I'm a huge fan of Halloween, the original Halloween. I think it's the greatest slasher of all time. Not to mention we got Christine. He's done some Stephen King work. The Fog.
Terry O'Quinn.
Okay.
Is his name.
Okay.
That's just him in Lost, obviously. Let me find a.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's definitely one pick. And you said Bryan Cranston. So yeah, everyone, send in your picks for Father Callahan. Next up, it says, while Salem's Lot has never been adapted to the silver screen, it has been translated to the small screen. 1979 miniseries starring David Soul as the writer, and a sequel in 1987 followed. Rob Lowe started a more recent adaptation, which was made by TNT in 2004.
Oh, shit, it was really that far out?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. The new project has no director at this stage, though both Wan and Doberman could be compelling candidates. One of the most in-demand horror scribes in town, Doberman, known for his knows his way around a scary story, having written Annabelle and Annabelle the Creation movie, which are part of the Conjuring universe, which have made over 500 million worldwide. He also wrote the Conjuring spinoff The Nun, in addition to working on New Line's adaptation of Stephen King's It, as well as the upcoming It Chapter 2.
Holy shit.
Doberman is making his directorial debut with the third Annabelle movie, Annabelle Comes Home, for which New Line and Warner Brothers have set June 28th as its release date. So yeah, he's definitely got credentials for sure. And for us King fans, he was one of the writers for It and the upcoming It Chapter 2.
Wow.
Wan has made his career directing and producing horror movies, launching franchises such as Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring, because he did do the original Conjuring.
He did Insidious too.
The last director, he last directed a billion-dollar hit Aquaman, and is mulling his next gig behind the camera. Both Wan and Doberman are coming off of a successful opening weekends of horror movies, The Curse of La Llorona, which raked in $26 million on a budget of $9 million, and are teaming to launch Swamp Thing, based on the monstrous DC comic creation, for which is set to premiere on the DC Universe platform in May. So that's the last of what I got there. So that James Wan's definitely one of the best. It sounds like Doberman's a pretty good writer. So they got a good crew behind it. And yeah, I think that it'd be interesting to think about. Maybe in a future episode we could have everyone could email in, not just Father Callahan. What about everyone else?
Dreamcasting.
You know, let's hit some of the big characters. Who do you guys see in some of these roles?
Yeah, Mark just said in the chat, he says, I hope they keep it in the 70s. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I like. I think there's some elements lost by technology in terms of like cell phones and stuff.
Streaming.
There's so much that'd be lost by having that stuff available. So I would agree. Yeah, 80s, you can go 80s, you can even go early 90s, but I wouldn't go like modern day. I think that'd be a tough one. How hard could that be, right? You know, if you're doing a small town, how many small towns look modern?
Sure. Sure.
You know, so it'd be easy to hopefully find a small town to film at that could look like something from the 70s or 80s or whatever.
There's a lot of places that would easily fit that bill.
Yeah, indeed. So that's kind of cool, and I'm excited. I think I even mentioned that on an episode some time ago, where I'm like, man, I wish we got into Salem's, because when we were talking about different movies, it's like I want to see The Shining readapted to be more true to the book, but modern quality, I guess, not necessarily like 1990s TV that we got with the guy from Wings. With the Stephen King version, but just to almost set the table for Dr. Sleep, which obviously isn't going to happen now. But I mentioned, I think at this time or two, where it's like Salem's Lot is probably due for like a full-on Hollywood production. You know, like let's go full bore like we did with It and Pet Sematary and some of these others and see Salem's Lot. So I'm really happy to hear that.
Me too.
So next up we have another casting. This one broken on Twitter. Ivan K cast in The Dark Tower. And this is from Ivan K Fans on Twitter. At Ivan K Fans on Twitter is the ones that tweeted this. And I will give credit to Sawyer, longtime listener, forwarded this to us and said, you might be interested in this. And the tweet says, we got informed by Ivan K and at Ivan K1, so from him directly, that he is part of the cast of a series pilot for Stephen King's Dark Tower, along with Jasper Plakonin, and then in parentheses, #Vikings, and Jerome Flynn, #Game of Thrones. Then some emojis there, Game of Thrones emojis and celebration emojis. And then and it says, can't wait to learn more. IMDb listing coming soon, #IvanK. So he definitely has a fan group here, and it sounds like it's one that he's fairly plugged in with. Another one of their tweets said that people predict who he gets cast as when it gets announced. They'll be put into a drawing for like a signed thing from him.
Cool.
So it's plugged in.
That's a really cool guy.
Yeah, it is. So I had actually originally put that he hadn't tweeted anything directly, but he has retweeted a bunch of Dark Tower things, including the Everything We Know About the Dark Tower by the TV Guide. Remember that I told you? We covered that because Glenn Mazzara tweeted it. He retweeted that. He's liked some Dark Tower stuff, but he actually ended up retweeting this tweet. So nice. If there was any doubt that this fan group was legitimate, the fact that the man himself retweeted it is, I think that quelches any doubts. I will say just first before we get to the pictures here, he was in Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp. He was in Layer Cake. He is in Vikings. He was also in EastEnders, that soap opera that Sam Strike was in in England. So he did do that at some point.
He's got some connections then.
So he's been around, and this would be the second Vikings cast member in the Dark Tower, right?
So we got, that's what I was saying, is we got cast. He's played with Jasper, and he's also played with Sam.
Oh, third then, because I forgot about Jasper as well, because Jake's mom in the movie was from Vikings, right? So there's been some. Maybe we just need to start looking at Vikings and seeing who our next Dark Tower people are. So we'll go ahead and give you a look at him here, Ivan K. I'm not super familiar with him. I went through his list, and he seems familiar to me, but I went through his IMDb. I'm not sure that I've ever seen anything of his. I know Layer Cake is one that I think I may even own because I was referenced to watch it, and it was really good, and I might have to watch it at some point.
He kind of reminds me of Andy Serkis.
Yeah. Oh, John Rhys Davies is who came to mind a little bit for me.
Especially that right picture with the goose.
Yeah.
He definitely looks like John Rhys Davies there, but the left picture just makes me think of Smeagol.
Yeah. Then we got a picture of him in Vikings.
He's going to play Mayor Thorne. Look at that.
All right. So let's see. I can't remember what else I got here. Oh, yeah. This is the retweet of the original tweet from Ivan himself. Yeah. But going back to his picture here, predictions then.
Mayor Thorne.
Yeah, Mayor Thorne. I'm thinking Court.
Or the sheriff.
I'm thinking Court.
Dude, what if he plays the sheriff?
Avery.
Yeah,
could be Avery. What about everyone in the chat here? What are you guys thinking here for Ivan K? Who do you guys predict here? Unfortunately, that's not a goose that he's holding there, but I did grab that picture because it's close. Faraday goose. I was like,
that's a goose.
That's a swan, isn't it?
No, it's not. That's a goose.
Is it?
Swans have long necks, dude. What the hell are you looking at?
That looks like a long neck.
That's not. No, swans have long necks, feet long.
Oh,
that's a goose, dude.
Oh, okay. So,
that's a goose.
So I did get it right then.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The hell?
I don't know.
Canadian goose. Think about that. Think about those. You see those all over the fucking place. Look how long that neck is. That's a goose.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So what do you think? You think,
dude? It's either Mayor Thorne or Sheriff Avery. Those are. I'm sticking with my gut. My gut says Mayor Thorne, especially that picture with him with the royal shit on.
Yeah.
I could definitely see him being a pompous. I mean, it doesn't really fit Thorne. Thorne was supposed to be skinny, knobbly, bony, and stuff like that. But dude, I mean,
you could change it up.
You could very easily make him a fat.
You don't think
piece
Court?
Of shit? I can see Court. I can see why you say
that
Court.
Was my first. That was my very first impression when I saw his picture. I'm like, this is Court.
He doesn't give off the strong, tough type.
And Lord of Discordia in the chat here says Court. Jack P says, is it a duck?
Is it a duck? Is it a goose? I swear that's a goose.
I'm not sure. But either way, Court was the first thing that came to my mind. There's just something about even that picture on the left. There's I feel like there's an intensity there that makes me think that he could be pull off the Court thing. And I've definitely made that clear on Twitter. That's my prediction is Court. But I can definitely see Avery.
Jack says, "What is Hacks too small of a role?"
Yeah, I mean, it could be a Hacks. I mean, it depends. I mean, it'd be small for the series, assuming that it gets picked up and we go on to a series. But for the pilot, no, I think that'd be it'd be a role for a singular pilot. If that's all that we ever got, it wouldn't be a small part in comparison to everything else. I mean, we could. I think some people on Twitter also mentioned other gunslingers. It could be one of Steven's quartet.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it could be someone's dad. It could be anyone.
It could be Cuthbert's dad or Cuthbert.
Dad. Yeah, exactly. It could be any number of people.
Also, I mean, we talked about this with the movie about rolling Court and Vinay into one, but it could be Vinay.
Yeah.
If we're gonna get more Gilead than we initially planned, to see a little bit more between Flag and Roland, we may get classes with Vinay. This very well could be Vinay.
Yeah, it could be. And I mean, I'm thinking that there's something that just very schemy about him in this picture here from Vikings.
Sure.
I haven't seen Vikings, so I don't know who he is or what his character is.
Or what the
but
context
he certainly seems like a slimy motherfucker to me in this picture. What about you?
He seems like he's about to poke someone.
But doesn't he just look like fucking...
Dude, why do you think I said Mayor Thorne as soon as I saw the picture? Yes.
There's just something skeevy about the fucker. I don't know. Yeah, he's definitely doesn't seem like a good guy necessarily. Jack says could be Pat Delgado. which is definitely it could, that could, especially if there was flashbacks used to kind of give insight into Susanna's head or Susan's head, that could be a large role for the series.
Yeah, Mark Sheriff and Magus, Sheriff Avery, absolutely, that's what I was thinking.
The one that brings the coffin hunters on.
No, I mean, he brings them on later, but he's not the one that like brings them to Magus.
No, but he
legitimizes he does deputize him later.
Yeah. Now the other thing is, if we got Jerome playing Roland's father, what about Eldred Jonas? Not necessarily the exact look that I've always pictured, but again, he is atypical castings are not. I mean, we never would have guessed Idris Elba for Roland, so it's like one of those things we got to remember. We never would have guessed Morgan Freeman as Red if we were old enough to have been reading the things and then like being on internet message boards in the earliest of days. So I don't know. Could this be a guy? I mean, I'm guessing if he's a king in Vikings, I'm guessing it's not a small role. So it makes me think like and if my eyes don't deceive me, and he is a kind of a douchey character or a scumbag character, a Eldred Jonas might be a good fit for him. I don't know. Any Vikings fans that are listening could email in or tweet at us or Facebook post on our Facebook and let us know, like, give us some hints here. I feel like
give us some background on his character.
Yeah, indeed. But that's again, that's kind of cool. He has again confirmed it pretty much.
Yeah.
So they got that, and then that is it for the big news. But that, quite a bit there. We got
odds and ends.
Got dates. We got location. We got some pictures of like and like none of those pictures are like were in the article. I should make clear. I guess I didn't say that. Those are just things I Googled. I Google image searched that town.
Yeah.
And spent like 30 minutes and found some pictures where I'm like, okay, I could see this.
For sure.
This could work. And who knows what's just off the other way, right? Most of the pictures were looking like just on the other side of the city itself. No doubt
you never
it's probably
know.
some wilderness.
Yeah, you never know what you get when you get outside the town either. I mean, like there's the town proper, and then there's the outside the town as well. I mean, like it's the same thing with like here Utah. Like you say Salt Lake City, Utah. Yeah, that's a metropolis. That's a city. There's skyscrapers and stuff like that. You drive 20 minutes one way, and you're in the fucking mountains.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's exactly it. It's like we don't know what's out there.
Yeah.
What else we could be looking at? We very well could be looking at a set for Magus.
Yeah.
With like if we go up the coastline and there's fisherman cottages or whatever. Who knows?
Yeah, indeed. Let's see what we got here for odds and ends. First of all, Chris from Endworld found the Lego Blaine that EJ mentioned in the interview from last episode, and I'm trying to think. Oh, did I may have screwed something up here because I am not seeing the picture. I had a picture on here. I swear I did. But it's not showing now.
Dark Tower Palaver.
Yeah, it'll be on the show notes. Yeah. I swear, I know I downloaded it, so maybe I just forgot to drag and drop it in, or I don't know. I swear I had it in here though. So
it's okay. We'll see.
I apologize. Look for it on the show notes. It's darktowerpalaver.com, and I will I'll have the picture posted there of the Blaine the Mono Lego version that EJ mentioned, and Chris from Endworld shared that with us on Twitter, so we definitely appreciate that. Sleeping Beauties is getting a pilot for AMC. To be an open-ended show, allegedly, is what it's saying. Owen King will be writing, so kind of an interesting pickup there.
Nice.
It seems like everything's happening. That's King. It seems like it's being adapted currently. And Jack, that is true too. It is on the Blaine is also on our Twitter as well. So if you want to check the Twitter, you can find it on there. I believe I did retweet it. If not, I'll make sure to do that promptly after the episode. But yeah, so you can find it a number of ways. Or I guess even Googling it, I'm sure, which is probably what Chris did. Next up, Castle Rock Season 2 has officially begun filming on April 29th. So they are now filming Season 2. So that's
maybe right now.
It's pretty cool, yeah. And this is an interesting little tidbit. King will be doing a podcast appearance for the 25th anniversary of the Stand miniseries. Hey. The podcast is associated with Fangoria, obviously one of the most famous horror magazines. The podcast is called Postmortem, and it will be available on May 8th. So, I mean, shortly after,
5 days. 5 days from now,
From
right around
now,
the time that we post
about
this
the time,
episode.
Yeah, about the time this episode is live, you'll be able to go.
It'll be out when our episode goes live. You'll be able to go listen to it.
Go listen to it.
Usually
yeah.
drop them on Tuesday or Wednesday, right?
Yeah, it's not usually
It's
Tuesday
Monday.
nights. So
yeah, Monday is the 8th. So
yeah. So
wait, am I looking at
no?
that
You're
right?
looking at the wrong calendar.
I'm looking at April.
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday. So yeah.
So right around the time that you're listening to this, if you're listening to it the standard podcast way, that podcast will be available. So you'll be able to go ahead and check that out. I was at least encouraged. I'm like, oh, cool. Stephen King knows what podcasts are.
All right. How long till you get Uncle Stevie
so
on
you're
ours?
saying there's a chance.
Yeah. I was gonna say, how long until we get Stephen on ours?
1 in a trillion, but just saying there's a chance. At least he knows a podcast exists. That's all. That's at least enough of a
All right.
win
So
there.
there's a chance.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so that is it for odds and ends. Let me go ahead and jump over here. I actually don't have the email jingle prompted. So unfortunate for most of us, except for Peter. But yeah, we do want to. I'm glad we do have some time to get into some emails because we've been we haven't had a lot of time for them over the last number of episodes.
Been busy with some news with the TV show and keeping up on the book clubs and everything.
Yeah, then there's been a lot of discussions
and then not
from
only,
the books too.
Yeah, not only that, but we also have the most hated tournament going on. That takes up some chunks as well. But I'm glad we're getting back to emails. We love emails.
Yeah, indeed. So this next one is one that is a little bit longer, but not in a bad way, of course. We love that.
Yeah.
But it is one that's one of the reasons we maybe haven't hit it. It's just like a quick, let's just throw an email on at the end of an episode that's already close to the end. Because I didn't want to shortchange this. But this is from Chris from Australia.
Chris.
So he starts off here, and this is from a little bit ways back, so I don't know how dated it may sound here, but we'll see what happens. Hi, Tad and Peter. Hi. He says, I've just finished listening to your roundtable number 65, where you discuss how old Roland is, and also Susanna's age. I think that you said you thought she was in her late 30s, early 40s. As you probably imagined, or as you could probably imagine, this is something I've given a bit of thought to. What with making the timeline and all, and then a smiley emoji there, and that's true. And yeah, and then he goes on here and says there is enough information in the main text to give fairly precise details on how old Susanna, Eddie, and Jake are. And I will at least I'll pause before we get into it too deeply. The reason I think I've always felt that she's older is probably just because of how proper she is.
Sure.
She's a very refined woman, and I feel like that just. Not that refinement means age, but I think that's always made me feel because that and her maturity is a little bit different than Eddie. It makes it just feel like maybe their gap is a little bit different, a little bit wider.
Sure.
But that's where my original comment probably came from. But it goes on here. So starting with Susanna, there's a little bit on discontinuity between books as to what year it was when she was drawn, 63 or 64. Personally, I say 64 because she mentions the line.
Yeah,
in the
she
book,
says the time frame between
the months since JFK
was
assassinated. Yeah, so I think 64. So maybe later in the books, it sounds like Stephen King might reference it as 63. But I would say I would lean it in 64's direction. And when things take place, but I was able to make this. What I was able to make out was this: Susanna was born in 1934. The dropping of the brick occurred when she is 5, making that 1939. The train push comes on 19th of August, 1959, making Susanna about 25 then, which all about follows in terms of kind of what she was involved with and that kind of thing. That sounds about right that she was 25. She is drawn by Roland around 1964, making her about 30 when she appears on the beach. So but yeah, I guess that still does put her about 7 years older than Eddie.
Yeah.
So I guess that the age gap is still kind of there. It's just definitely not as pronounced as I was kind of assuming. But no, yeah, thank you for that, Chris. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he goes on and says there are inconsistencies though for here's a passage from Wastelands referring to Suzanne and Eddie. Quote, a black woman of 26 and her white bread lover who was 3 years younger. So there we have some discontinuity. So maybe Susanna's only 26, but she is not in her late 30s or 40s. So that early 40s.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely that. I would say that probably your reasoning is probably more likely that the reasoning is right and King just kind of has it.
Yeah.
But I guess it comes down to then at that point who defines other than King, right? So
fair point. I'm going with Chris. I think next time I read or listen to the series, that's what I'm going to be picturing.
Yeah, indeed. And then he goes on, as for our boy Eddie, he was born in 1964 and is drawn by Roland in 1987 at the age of 23. He dies in Algo Ciento at the age of around 23 to 24. Jake is only born 2 years later than Eddie in 1966. However, he enters Midworld twice in 1977, so he is only 11 years old. So that is kind of the age of our quartet as they are. And then it goes on here. And then he goes on here and says, "This brings us to the age of Roland. This is highly subjective, and I think you mentioned OG Chris's comment that his age cannot be known. However, this doesn't stop crazy people like us speculating. The amazing Robin Firth has written a timeline of events at the end of her Dark Tower Concordance. Based on her calculations, Roland's age is 36 when he arrives in Tull. Regarding the palaver with the Men in Black in the Golgotha, Firth writes, quote, Roland and Walter enter a fistula of time, and Roland has a vision of Tower's many levels. When he awakes, Roland has aged 10 years, but 300 years have passed in Midworld. That was while Roland dreams, the remains of Midworld collapses. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Have you ever? That makes total sense, because then that puts him right around close to 50, like 40, mid 40s to 46 if it's 10 years, and he'd put him at 46.
Yeah.
But at 300 years passed for the world itself,
sure.
Which is interesting.
Which is one thing that I've always looked at with Roland's aging, is that he doesn't age the same as the world does, because that goes back to your theory that he's outside of the loop. Him and Flag are outside of the loop, so or they're stuck in the loop, which means that they're not subjected to the the aging of the world and everything like that.
Yeah.
So that also goes along the lines of like Eddie, Susanna, Jake, Oi. I think all of them that are stuck in the loop with Roland, where they're members of the quartet, don't age necessarily like they should.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's accelerated, maybe it's slowed down. There's nothing backing this up. It's just the way that I've always thought.
Yeah.
Is that there's years that seem like they pass in between moving from, Tull getting to, the Kalas. For me, it just seems like decades have passed in the world, but it's just different parts of the world. So for me, it's just, I've always thought that they're kind of outside of time.
Yeah.
And then even like Roland's aging isn't directly related to his, like the arthritis that he gets in 5 and 6, and finally gets cured of in 7, obviously, when Jake sacrifices himself and saves King.
Yeah.
Is not directly related to age. It's more related to the get to the Dark Tower, the story.
Yeah.
And so that's where, for me, like, age has never really been that important for, like, what age are they? I have to know, that kind of thing. Because I've always kind of considered them outside of time.
Okay. That's an interesting take for sure. And Chris goes on here, 300 years, how could that be? Firth references 2 passages. The first one is from Wastelands. Roland says that after he woke up from the palaver with Walter, quote, Walter was dead 100 years at least, and probably more. And then back to Chris, he says, I don't find this convincing, since we know Walter is still alive, and I suppose the bones of Walter, the Walter leaves for Roland to find, would still give an indication of the passage of time, but we don't know how old his bones were to start with. Then he says, I find second reference more convincing. She cites the words of Blaine, who states that Gilead is no more. No gunslingers have walked in-world or mid-world for almost 300 years, to which Roland responds, I and my friends are the last. Mm-hmm. So using that to kind of extrapolate. So not that, because I guess I always took that line as that Blaine just doesn't know, like, because Roland is the only one or the last one.
Sure. From Gilead.
The fact that, like, even gunslingers in general, and that's why everyone's just like, they don't exist anymore, because if they haven't crossed paths with Roland, they're gone. It's easy for them to assume that they're gone, because what used to be, I don't know, maybe hundreds or thousands, maybe, hundreds or thousands. I don't know how many you'd guess there were at the height, but there certainly isn't that anymore. So
it's just like the fucking extinct animals. Like, they just found, it was just a couple of weeks ago, they found a fucking, was it a bird or a lizard down in the Amazon? Like, oh, this has been extinct for 30 years. Oh shit, we just saw one.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, oh fuck, there's one.
Or even, I even look at it from like a Star Wars perspective, right? Like at the beginning Jedi. Of the original movie, the Jedi are gone. They're extinct. And that's a very fair thing to say.
Sure.
Because the only 2 that are left are hiding. So therefore, unless you were to encounter them and they were to reveal to you that they were a Jedi, you wouldn't know that wasn't the reality. So that's kind of how I've always visualized. That's what I've always taken, like, Blaine's mistake here.
Sure.
But it could very well be that Blaine knows more, and that 300 years is like the last time Roland was seen. So I could easily see that as well. I could see that as
well. I mean, if we go with like what Chris was saying with the Golgotha, 300 years passes from there. Blaine, that's the 300 years Blaine's talking about. The last time Roland was seen was Tull.
Exactly.
And the Golgotha takes place after that.
So like Blaine would be aware that Tull happened,
That
where
Tull
it's like,
happened.
okay, there's a gunslinger. And then fast forward 300 years, nothing's happened. It's like, okay, he's dead from Blaine's perspective.
Yeah, humans don't live for 300 years.
Yeah, but now here he is showing up saying, I'm Roland of Gilead. And yeah, so that's an interesting take. Or an interesting, like, obviously with proof and stuff too.
Sure.
So I guess, I don't know. For me, Roland's age has never like been a huge deal for me, except that I don't want him young. You know, like early.
No,
on,
he's experienced. He's older. Yeah.
Yeah, early in the way before the podcast, early in the era of like the movie getting like like bought from, or the property being bought for King to be made into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
There were some names thrown out there by fans for years, and I was just like, so many of them I shook my head. I'm like, no, they're not fucking old enough. Don't tell me someone that's like 26 is going to play Roland.
I know.
Like,
I know one of the. I remember one of the ones. I think you should remember this. Someone was saying Christian Bale coming off of like The Dark Knight and stuff like that. Oh, he should play Roland. No, fucking no. He's not old enough.
Yeah.
And then even in like our Dreamcasting episodes, we said Clint Eastwood's son.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, he's not old enough.
Yeah.
Like he could play the young Roland, but he's not old enough.
Yeah, you'd have to age him up because Roland just isn't young. So in terms of like his actual age, it's never bothered me as much. But I'm sure on some points of the podcast, I may have even said that he's hundreds of years old because I've always pictured him as being one that, time is like.
And that's what I was taking is
like
he's outside of time with everything that he's doing with the loops and everything like that. So that's where it's like, yeah, okay. So if he relives the same 4 years over and over and over and over and over again, does that mean that every time he gets sent back to 44?
Yeah,
and then he ages up to 50 or 48 or whatever.
Yeah,
and then every time he gets sent back to 44 every single time, or is it 44? The next loop, he's 48. The next loop, he's 52.
No,
the next loop, 56.
I think it would reset his age because it resets his fingers, right?
Oh, that's a fair point. It does reset his fingers. It does reset like the all the other damage that happens. After.
Yeah. You kind of get back to the original, which is why it's a loop, right? So I could see that, but yeah, there's definitely some.
But he still keeps like subconsciously, he still keeps like the knowledge and the experience of things. I mean, that's why things are different every time.
Yeah.
Is that he's changing. He's not reset.
He's evolving.
Here's the copy of, we're going to call it Roland A. Roland A is the first time through the desert is the Roland that he gets reset to every single time.
Yeah.
Because even in like the end of the book, we have him like have that moment where he like gets dizzy and he's like, oh fuck, like where I was just at the tower, and subconsciously maybe he like forgets it, but subconsciously that's still built into him, and that's why things are different every time.
Yeah, indeed. Then Chris goes on here and says, given that Blaine knows the fall of Gilead and assuming he is not lying, then it would seem that Gilead must have fallen almost 300 years ago, and first deductions are correct. However, another repercussion of this is that when Walter sends Per Callahan from the way station to Cala Bryn Sturgis through the Unfound Door, he must also send him 300 years back into the future, because Per has also been at the Cala Bryn Sturgis for about 10 years, and Roland turns up there, and he doesn't. And he does this just after Per sees Roland and Jake heading off into the journey into the Mohaine Desert.
True.
So another one of those things where you're when you're crossing wires now, it's like, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
I've gone cross-eyed.
When you're trying to like keep straight some of this stuff. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good point.
I just picture Chris down there in Australia with one of those boards with all the fucking yarn linking things everywhere.
Yeah.
He's like that. I just picture him like that, like this mad scientist to know all this. Like it's so in depth. It's so cool.
Not that we haven't done similar things.
Oh no, hell no. We definitely have. That's why I like the image that there's others out there like us.
Yeah, indeed. At least like my least favorite thing is when I get into something and someone's just like, oh yeah, I liked it, but like, but then like when you try to like talk deeper into something, like, I never thought about it that much. That's like my least favorite thing, because I'm just like,
no. I'm
like, well, then what's the point? What's the point?
What good are you?
Yeah, what's the point if you can't do a podcast? On this thing? Oh, man.
That's why you got me reading The Dark Tower all those years ago.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're like, I sense the good in him.
Oh, I just wish you would have taken to the flag side more.
Can't take to the bad guy side.
Then Chris goes on. It says, I find it a strange coincidence that about 10 years of time appears to pass for both Roland in the Golgotha and Callahan in Caliber and Sturgis, but the fact that 300 years have passed in the rest of Midworld. But Blaine is a clever computer, and presumably Walter knows how long Roland will sleep for and could account for that. So maybe maybe that is in fact what happens. And then in parentheses says, of course, Walter's apparent knowledge of the loop is another massive topic of conversation that you have touched on during the flag debate, but we could save for another time. And then he gives a smiley emoji there, because that is definitely a different can of worms for sure. And he goes on here and says, anyway, all this means that Roland, according to first calculations, is about 46 when he arrives in the Caliber and Sturgis, and is about 346 years have passed in Midworld since his birth. This does not reconcile with some of the other statements in the book, such as, quote, it was a long distance from Gilead to the Western Sea, 1,000 miles or more, but it has taken Roland over 20 years to cross that distance. That was the end of the quote. First calculations do not allow for such a time of travel. Or this one, or Roland is talking about the effects of radiation on the livestock and so forth. Quote, the physical effects, the two-headed buffalo and the white bees and such have grown less as time passes. End quote. I don't think the 46-year-old man could have noticed a reduction of the effects of radiation blast that occurred, quote, a thousand years before the great-great-grandfathers of the River City folk were born. And that's end quote. Roland would have had to have been a lot older to have noticed such effects. And I think that's the kind of things that, like, now that he's pointing that out, those are the things that, like, has always made me think that Roland is, like,
outside of time,
hundreds of years old.
Yep.
That, like, that his journey from, like, Gilead to when we see him could have easily been hundreds of years.
Yep.
Because there's just some aspect of it that's like, this dude, and of course, we have to, of course, give the caveat, time is funny, right? In Midworld.
Sure.
It is different.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think that different and it's slipping is enough to account for what would have to be hundreds of years to, like, to notice things like that. So that's probably a good, like, not that I ever, like, would have had a pin in it to say, like, for sure this is why I'm saying Roland's hundreds of years old, but that's the kind of thing that would have put that idea in my head and had me assume that, I guess, is things exactly like that. And he says there is another quote that I cannot find right now that indicates that Roland is over 1,000 years old, and, like, I would be okay with that. Like, again, for me, Roland is just, I don't want to say ageless, but he's just,
it feels that way. It really does.
Yeah.
Like for me, like, especially when you're stuck in an eternal loop kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like age is not a thing for Roland. And that's where maybe part of it, of like what you're talking about, is that there's things that that's where part of me wonders, is like, is the trip the same for Roland every single time? Like, is he, when he gets to the desert, is he just remembering Toll? And then when he gets to the way station, is it going to be, there's going to be no cans there because now they're all expired because they're thousands of years older?
And see, that's I think, like, because, like, Toll is outside the loop, right? We've pretty much established that.
As far as we understand it, yeah, it's outside the loop.
So that would be something he only experiences the one time. But it's like the moment of, like, that opening line and Roland's, like, dizziness, like, that's the point that the loop is, like, kind of in on itself. So,
and he thinks back to Toll as in the past tense.
Yeah.
And so that's where part of me has always wondered, like, okay, so when Roland comes to the Kalas, it's going to be like 6 generations after the wolves have been defeated. The next time he comes to the Kalas, and that's where part of me is always like, well, the world has moved on, but the world doesn't stop moving just because Roland resets.
Well, no, I do. I think that's part of the loop is that it is, like, I've always pictured it that way, kind of like a Doctor Strange type thing where everything reverts back, like, in terms of, like the Dormammu thing or whatever.
Well,
like,
see, that's where
I've always pictured it that, like, the things do reset, that, like, because he could have, like, whatever, but, like, the point that he goes back, everything turns back.
But we've had the discussion that he pulls a different Jake and different Eddie because they're dead.
Yeah.
So if it reverts back, that doesn't revert back.
And not to me, I don't necessarily see it because they're dead. I see it because, like, that the loop is almost like there's a randomness to it, and there is no guarantee that every loop is going to have the same people behind the doors. Not because Jake and Eddie died, but because it could very well be, and that's always a debate topic too. I'm not even, like, one to say that it is not always Eddie and Susanna and, like, the same quartet. All I'm saying is that there is a potential, because we're only seeing one loop, that maybe in other ones there is a potential that those doors open to different people. Now, of course, they're going to have the same characteristics, like they're going to be very Cuthbert and Eddie-ish, whoever's in that first door, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're a 27-year-old or a 23-year-old junkie that's on an airplane smuggling dope. Like, the next cycle could be somebody completely different.
A 23-year-old businessman who's looking at eyeballing it running for Senate.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, exactly. It could be any number of things. But he has the same personality type because it's going to replicate like.
See, for me, that's contradicting though, because you're saying that the entire world resets, except for the fact that it's going to be the doors and everything like that. So does that mean that the Eddie from the book gets resurrected and put back into 1987, where he's doing the cocaine run?
And I get, again, that's kind of one of the things that's up for debate. I would say that, like, yeah, if it is Eddie again every time, then yes, it's just reset and it's back, and Eddie's going to kind of go through the same cycles over and over.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that if you're saying that it resets, then it resets. It's not going to reset 95%, but it's not going to reset Susanna back to her time. It's not going to reset Jake and Eddie back to theirs and Oi back to his and everything. They're dead. That's the thing, is like, that's where it kind of gets into the gray area. That's why, for me, what I've always taken it is that Roland finishes a loop and gets sent back to this point, but the world has continued moving, and now he has to try to get back to the tower, and everything's different. So it is a new adventure every time, and that goes to along the point of what you're saying. Yeah, he may have to draw different people because Eddie, Jake, and Father Callahan and Oi, they're dead. You know?
Yeah, I've never seen it that way. I see it more as that everything does reset, but I guess what it comes down to is that, like, kind of like the randomness of like life and reality is that it's not like Destiny where like it's always going to be the same people. And I'm not saying I believe this. I'm saying because I really don't fall one way or the other in terms of like, is it always the same or is it different each time? I don't have an opinion on that because I could see it both ways and we don't have enough information to know for sure.
Right.
But I guess the alternate would be is that everything resets back to zero. But like the randomness of call it, that had Eddie behind that first door may not have Eddie behind that door for this next round. It might be someone different, even though they'll have some of the same personality traits and stuff because they'll be Cuthbert's twinner basically. But it could be someone completely different. Now, what does that mean for Eddie? Because everything's been reset. That would mean that yes, in that world, he would be back on that airplane.
Which means that
potentially without that door opening to the point where the whole heist might go
smoothly
through fine. Yeah, it might go through fine.
And then him and Henry die with an OD or something.
I mean, Henry would still die the same way, right? Like theoretically. Well, no, because they bring him.
They only bring him in because Eddie gets nabbed.
Yeah.
So
who's to say he doesn't hot shot in his house? I mean,
he very well. That's what I'm saying. And maybe they OD 6 months later.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And like with Susanna, like who knows where she? I mean, Odetta and Detta, right? Like, so I guess that's
how. Who knows what the fuck happens there?
That's how I've always pictured it. Like again, and I think I lean more towards it's always the same. Well,
it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, because again, like every time I like think to like the one side of like I do like the idea of it being the same, there's like aspects of it that I don't like. Like I do like the fact that like because again I think of it like from Flag's perspective. If he's like outside of things, he's gonna be doing things different. So the barriers that Roland comes to are gonna be different each time because Flag's trying different strategies, right? But I don't. But
so does that mean that he has a deck of cards somewhere that's like, okay, so this time I pulled the fucking heroin junkie, that didn't work. Throw that away. All right, let's try the businessman that's trying to be a senator. Let's try that. Let's try the white nurse. Let's try that. The girl nurse. Let's try that.
Now,
and then let's try the 10-year-old boy from a loving family that has 17 brothers and sisters. Let's try that one.
Yeah, no, because I don't think that Flag has that kind of control. I think that like Flag is legitimately using magic to get insight of what Ka is going to bring him. You know, but I don't think that he's like defining it by his cards.
Well, Jack makes a good point. He says, I always felt the loop resets everything apart from slight changes, e.g. Roland's horn.
Which we've discussed
is outside of the loop.
Yeah,
that's a decision that happens back at Jericho Hill, which we take more as divine intervention with like maybe someone like Gan or for all we know, it's a negative change. And that was Flag or the Crimson King influencing the negative side of it.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Interpretation's the ending very obviously, but the way I've always interpreted is Roland is in a purgatory. He's in damnation because of the person that he is and the things that he's done. But it's like purgatory though. It is one of those things that you can get out of purgatory by slowly earning your way out. And I feel that like Roland gaining humanity during the course of the books that we read is the reason that Gan's like, okay, I'm going to drop this horn for you to the point where I'm basically going to affect you outside the loop.
This.
Yeah, you basically evolved yourself to the point where if this Roland had existed at 14, things would have been completely different.
Right.
And I'm going to give you throw you a bone.
It's like you've gone as far as you can on your own. Here, let me help you get to the next step, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, you've gotten to like if we're looking at a percentage. The Roland that takes the very first walk across the dead is at 0% redeemed in your eye.
Yeah.
This Roland may be at 47%. But
Yeah.
in order to get to 48%, he can't do it alone. He has to have the horn. Or maybe it's a higher percentage. Maybe it's a 98. Maybe it's a 99%. But in order to get to that next level,
I've always thought that he's pretty high because I think that, and I think what it comes down to is, and that's the thing is I don't get like, what I've always pictured is the splitting of the minds. And that's why it makes me think the doors might be different every time. I think the splitting of his mind is the point where he makes that vow to himself once Jake's there. After the Dutch Hill stuff, that, like, I'm never going to let you go again, and he makes true on that promise, even though he doubts himself when he gives it. When it comes down to that point with King, if it wasn't for the arthritis, Roland's dead right there. He would have been dead to sacrifice for Jake, despite the tower.
Very close. He's
so I think
very close to stopping.
I think that's full on redemption. So that's what makes me think the doors might be different, because if he's always going to have that door into Jack Mort's mind to stop Jake from being pushed, again, there's so many variables involved. Who knows? But that's what makes me think that, like, the doors are different each time, and that they're, and that maybe, like, just things are lining up. Like, the universe has to align to get to that point, to get Roland to that moment of, like, desperation of, like, I want to kill myself basically because I'm so fucked up right now, and then that leads him to the point of, like, treasuring Jake, which then leads to him essentially getting to the point where he makes the decision, I'm going to forsake the tower to save Jake's life.
Save Jake,
and I think
save King.
The way I've always interpreted the ending, that's salvation for him. And it's only dumb luck that stopped that from happening, or maybe that's fate or
maybe that's the negative side, because that's what I always picture is there's Gan on one side and the Crimson King on the other side influencing things. And that's what you call back to earlier in the episode where you're saying, like, I've always taken Crimson King as the influencer of all King things.
Yeah, every King work.
Like in Dr. Sleep, we find out about the true knot. That's something that the Crimson King either directly or indirectly influenced and started.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Like, how did Pennywise get on Earth?
Probably,
I would say the Crimson
King.
King.
Something that the Crimson King fucked around with.
Yeah.
And ended up pulling this cosmic fucking evil onto the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just feel like everything that is put into place is like the Crimson King's in some way responsible. But I guess, like, again, the ending varies. If you have a different interpretation of the entire series and the ending, that's totally fine. That's
the great thing about the ending is that you can have multiple different thoughts.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, like, with your view of the ending, it's evolved over time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's when you first started with the Dark Tower, you were like, oh fuck, he's back in the loop and everything like that, and then you started slowly realizing that you think it's more about, like, the redemption.
And because originally I thought it was like the horn to give him it was almost a bone.
It's the out.
Because then he could, like, put that down to get in and have his gun still and kill himself before having to repeat it. So it's almost like escape by death. But, like, now I'm into the spot where it's like, no, he earned that horn by the actions that he did in the loop that we saw.
Sure.
And so, like, it almost, like, retroactively Gan interacts to, like, allow him to have, like, that aspect of his soul back. And that soul is the only reason he would have reached down to pick up that horn.
Right.
Is a soul. He's not the Terminator anymore. He's got some humanity to him. And if that Roland in the Mohaine Desert has that horn and has that aspect of his soul, I believe that's enough to where he's going to cross that finish line during the next loop that we only see moments of, is, like, in my opinion, that's the way I see it. But again, like, Roland is one of my favorite characters, and maybe that's hopeful for me to think that he's going to get that. Maybe that's wrong for me to think that. I mean, he himself always doubts that.
Maybe that's the point of the story, is to get you to hope and everything like that.
Yeah.
And that's where you can come to the realization later on after reading it 2 or 3 times that, oh fuck, you know what? Maybe he is unredeemable.
Yeah.
And this is his purgatory. And in some, you said with purgatory you can claw your way out of it. I mean, in some religions, when you look at purgatory, that's a permanent thing. Like, you fucked up bad enough that you're here forever.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that may be where Roland's at. It's a possibility. And that's
could be, yeah.
And that all just depends on your personality and how you interpret the ending and everything like that. Because you're of the mindset of, like, the redemption and everything like that. For me, I'm like, it's a matter of the journey and getting to the tower. I feel that it's more about he has to be worthy at some point, and everything like that. And I don't feel that he's there yet. But when he gets there, I don't know what's going to happen.
The top is going to be different.
The top is going to be different. It's not going to be him being sent back to the desert. It's going to be something else. Save the tower, finish it, and then Roland does
blank.
I don't know. I've never really been able to come up with an answer for that.
Yeah.
But that's where I've always been with the series, is that I feel that Roland's working, like you said, he's working towards redemption.
Yeah.
And working towards changing how he is, because I think you're absolutely right.
Because that's his curse, is how I view it.
It very well could be a curse. That's the thing, is in order to break the curse, he has to change who he is fundamentally.
Yeah.
And in order to break that curse, redemption, like you're talking about,
he has to forsake the
He has
tower,
to
which is like
he
the ultimate
may have
irony,
to-
right?
He may have to forsake the tower, or because that's the
That's
thing
how
is,
I
like,
view it. Yeah,
We've talked about it before. Algo Ciento, the tower is safe.
yeah,
Shimi tells us, hey, it's going to repair itself. The beams are going to come back. There is no reason at that point, aside from going and killing the Crimson King and making sure that he's done, that no one's going to be able to release him from that fucking balcony to wreak havoc on the worlds again. There's no reason to go to the tower at that point.
and there's no reason he couldn't have followed Susanna through that door.
Mhm.
You know, I hated Susanna early on because of she quote
No,
abandoned.
we
him.
got to get to the tower.
You know, and like I was like livid against her as a character for the longest time. But then as I become more to realize the ending, to see it the way I see it now, it's like, no, she's right. That's Roland's salvation right there, is to go through that door. No, that may not be the same Eddie and Jake, but like that is your family. Like you, just like Susanna, like it's more important to me to have these people I love than to see your fucking tower. And Roland's redemption, in my view, the way I view it, is that, because that, to me, I guess I see it as like almost that Shakespearean, like just like kind of like tragedy, where it's like the tragedy is he's so dedicated to his goal, but his goal is his damnation. Like, isn't that like the
right?
quintessential like
Right.
Shakespearean?
Yeah.
Like, so I guess that's how I've always viewed it. And his redemption is only going to come through, like, you could save the tower, but if you continue on towards the tower, you're doomed to repeat. You know, like,
Well, and that's the other thing also is like, you know, like maybe he needs to cry off sooner so that the whole saving the tower, Eddie and Jake don't die,
yeah,
you know, kind of thing. And that's where something else intervenes to save the towers.
yeah,
You know, we don't know. And that's the big thing. Is like, I think that there's so many different things with the ending.
Yeah,
There's so
it
many
is.
different ways that this could go.
And what I love is that again, didn't I say in the spoiler warning that it always seems like we find our way to like,
Hey, we're talking about the ending.
But like, it is such a multifaceted thing, and I find it really
It is.
interesting. And like, it is something that I could evolve from and have a different view on in 6 months from now. Who knows? But yeah, I do. I love it, and I think that's what makes this series special.
Yeah.
Is that it does have that. It's not just tie a bow on it and that's the end of the story. Because like those stories, I'm not going to say they're less like appealing, because like I would say The Stand has kind of a bow on it. But to me, it's the journey for that. It's not about
Sure.
the end. It's about the journey. So like a
But it's like-
bow on
it's
it is
like
not a
a-
bad thing.
yeah.
But like this is one that feels like, because of the way the story is built with everything that's involved with it, it shouldn't have a bow on it.
No.
It should be one that is more ambiguous, because
Sure.
the series itself is like, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's not The Stand. It's not like some of these other stories. Like The Dark Tower is a very different thing. Like at work, I ended up talking to one that I work with, that you used to work with, that's a Dark Tower fan. We were talking to someone that's kind of into like anime and like different kinds of things, and like he had been,
Sure.
he's like, oh yeah, I've heard of The Dark Tower. People told me I should read it. So then like me and this other guy that has read it, and he has like a Ka tattoo, we were like talking to this guy about like giving him some like rundown of like basically what The Dark Tower is and why
Yeah.
it's cool. And it's just like one of those things, like you can't explain it. It's just,
Nope.
it's so outside of anything that you've ever seen before. But let me just finish up here. Chris,
Oh, yeah.
Chris does say, anyway, that's it enough for now, which that is plenty, Chris, which is what I love.
I love Chris's emails.
Let's just agree that the time is strange in Midworld. Smiley emoji. He says, all the best, Chris from Australia. Indeed it is.
Yeah.
And I love that, again, just stumbling into a conversation about the end.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Let me we got another one from Chris, but let me jump and let me find, because I think we got some that are getting a little bit more dated in terms of here we go. Sorry, I'm losing my space here. Daryl, it did email at one point. I don't have a slide because it's out. I'm going out of order. He emailed and says, "Hi, old gunslingers, just saw Pet Cemetery. Holy shit, that's it. That's the email. So just a reaction to Pet Cemetery, which we did actually bring up today. So it's fitting that we could read that one. I just wanted to hit some of the ones that like, because like who knows if it ends up being a couple weeks or a
Sure.
month or so from now.
Well,
that
we
get to
also
that.
we got a book club coming next too. So
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it, because the rest of these emails are long enough and deep enough that I want to give some time.
give them the proper attention that they're due.
Yeah, but yeah, we're definitely gonna make it a point. You know what I decided is that regardless of where we're at for episodes, let's do an email every episode, at least one.
Okay.
Just to commit to that. You know, if that means we run a little bit longer, then whatever. But I thought about that going into today, even though I was like, man, this show's stacked. I'm like, but am I gonna bounce this off Peter before we start, which I forgot.
Of course you did.
I'm like, let's just see if we can commit to like at least one email an episode. At least if we end up running out of emails, which generally has never happened, then we could deal with that at that point. But let's keep the emails as part because
Sure.
it's always fun to have different conversations.
And we love our tangents.
Oh, indeed. So, dude, so much. Got dates. We got cast members.
That's what we should put on our freaking. If we ever do a Dark Tower Palaver shirt, we love our tangents, and then just put on the back DTP.
Indeed. I mean, I still think Team Flag, Team Oi.
Team Flag, Team Oi.
That's what you've always framed the argument is around like.
No,
Flag
if
and
we're
Oi.
gonna honestly, if we're ever gonna do a T-shirt, the first thing we're gonna start with is hashtag Tad is terrible. Because in all reality, hashtag Tad is terrible.
Which we didn't get one this
I just
episode,
did one.
but it didn't.
You are a terrible person.
It wasn't earned though.
Oh, it's very earned.
I mean, I did say Oi Slayer.
Exactly. Hashtag Tad is terrible.
But I didn't get one for that.
No, you didn't. But you still deserve one. So
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for this episode. A lot of cool stuff, man. I'm like excited. By the time we record next, which is next week, we're going to do a book club. By the time we get to a round table, they will be in production on the pilot.
In
So
Croatia.
So we might have some castings to talk about at that point. But next week we'll be back. We're dealing with Detta on the other side.
Are we 100% confirming we're going to do a book club? Aside from like,
Yeah, because like
even if we get like Cuthbert or Land castings.
No, because I don't honestly at this point I think like when you're talking like Roland is in place, Flag is in place. Like, is there any ones that are is there anything else that's that important? We got
that's what I was wondering.
We got dates now. We got location. We already know what it's covering. Like it's not like the movie where we're like we don't even know what the fuck they're gonna do with this.
Right.
Like, we know the basics of the story. Like I can't think of any castings that could happen that would be enough to preempt next week doing a book club. So book club next time, and then on the
25th,
about the 25th, we will be doing another roundtable, which again will be 3 days into their production schedule.
And we'll be going into the conclusion of the most hated.
Oh yeah.
That'll be our roundtable about the most hated.
That'll be where we crown the most hated character.
Crown. Crucify? I mean,
which
would you
or one and the same, right? Crucified and crowned. Too soon.
Damn! Hashtag Tad is terrible. That one was earned.
Jack says have my life for you on a T-shirt. That would be awesome. Team Flag, my life for you. Yeah,
but that's not Dark Tower. That's the stand.
Flag is flag, sir. Flag is eternal. Flag is eternal. Flag is beyond your little boxes that you're trying to put him in here, sir. Flag is beyond that. So yeah, we will see you guys next time. We'll go and spend some time with Detta, which I can't wait for. I love me some Detta, man. I laughed my ass off when they were taking her up the beach. She's so funny, dude. I love her so much. See you guys next time, and then see you for the round table. And if you guys haven't checked out the interview with EJ, check that out because it is an awesome interview and definitely kind of stuff I love seeing as art from folks. But yeah, I guess we got the closing too. If you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on iTunes. If you could rate us and review us on there as well, that'd be awesome. If you want to stream us, you can do that on Stitcher. Show notes, darktowerpalaver.com. I will get everything that we need on there, including that Blaine picture that I forgot on the slideshow. And if you want to engage with us, including add to our mailbag, there's a number of ways to do that.
Like Ted said, we're going to start reading one email per episode. So email us, darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We don't mind. Give us a tangent. We love tangents. We love going off on things. Chris was a prime example of that. You can also reach us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Tweet us on the old Twitter. It's @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. And then also we're YouTube. It's youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver. You can watch roundtables on there, and you can see old roundtables and watch live book clubs, but the book clubs do not stay up, so go ahead and check that out.
Yeah, indeed. And Daryl, for your email about Pet Cemetery, I'm not necessarily like not going into it too heavily, but we did already talk about Pet Cemetery once. Sure. We talked about it a little bit here, and I feel like once the Blu-ray comes out, we may dive into a little bit more because at that point we'll see the alternate endings and maybe some deleted scenes, and we'll have some more conversation. But I think we both agree with you. I know there's lots of people out there that aren't really loving or haven't loved the Pet Cemetery movie.
Sure.
But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought it was great. You, Peter?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was reading what Jack wrote. Jack said, I think TikTok man says it, not sure.
Oh, yeah.
He does.
Flag tells him to say it.
Holy shit. He says, my life for you.
He says, because that's the point when it really connects, because he's like, somebody
Yeah.
else, somebody else used to say this to me.
Yeah.
Just say my life for you. So, yeah, that is indeed, Jack.
Oh, damn. Good call out, Jack.
Good catch. And I just passed that point in the book not long ago. So I definitely should
Shame
have
on you.
I should have caught on that, but I let it just slide
Shame on
past.
you.
So see you guys next time. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat. Jack, Cody, let's see,
Lord of Discordia.
Mark, Lord of Discordia. Trying to see, do we have anybody else? Everyone that was in the chat, thank you guys for joining us. Made it fun as usual. Always good to have some interaction and that kind of stuff. And we'll see you guys for a book club next week with some data action.
Oh.
See you next time.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
Long days and pleasant nights indeed. End of the recording there. Everyone in the chat, thanks again. We will see you guys in 1 week with some data action, and we will do crown our winner for the most hated in a few weeks from now.
Yeah.
That'll be a lot of fun. Any guesses?
Any guesses? No,
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Just-
try.
just-
I'm not going to try and influence it.
No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you off the air who I think, but I don't
Okay.
want. I don't want to influence any votes or anything.
Okay,
Like that.
well, everyone in the chat, you guys can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. Let us know what your guys' predictions are.
Yeah.
Now that we're in the final four, and yeah, that I'm interested to see what's going to happen, man. I don't know. There's been some surprises. I really like this, and we've had some ideas on social media for people where even somebody brought up recently, not just favorite character, because that's the opposite of this, but somebody brought up, what about a tournament for favorite secondary character?
Oh, there we go.
Things like
Outside of the quartet.
yeah, and they mentioned like Shimi or whatever, but they also mentioned Susan. Do you think Susan's a secondary character?
Yeah,
Okay, I
absolutely.
feel weird about that.
Just
for
like
some reason.
Cuthbert is in a secondary,
Hmm.
and Alan, and Stephen Deshane, and Court.
Watch yourself.
They're
Watch
all
yourself-
secondary characters.
Watch yourself there,
the
sir.
fuck?
All right, guys. See you next time.
Bye, guys.